Hello and welcome to Vtuber Talk. I'm your host Jay, and thank you so much for joining us this evening. For any of you who haven't been here before, Vtuber Talk is designed after classic late night talk shows. Everything here is live, casual, and the goal is to simply have fun conversations that will entertain people who are already familiar with the guest while still being accessible for new fans. Please welcome my guest for this evening, Takako Takamura, or is it Takamura Takako? It's displayed as both types, both ways, and being a Japanese name, it does not make it quite clear.
It doesn't matter. 帰りなさいませ、ご主人様、お嬢様. Usually I say welcome back to the White Rose Cafe, but I'm on your channel today.
Oh, no, please, by all means, do the intro.
Well, that's fine. I'm the owner of the White Rose Maid Cafe. I don't know, I'm a variety streamer. I've been singing a lot. We do a lot of different stuff at the Maid Cafe, but it's nice to meet you.
Yes, indeed. Many things. And I do actually have to open the show. Oh, well, I have to open the show with two things. One, first, thank you to Wolfrain3, Volk1VT, and IDM Potent for the follows. Thank you so much. Welcome on in. And I also need to start the show with some recent news, recent events. I try not to really talk about drama on this channel. I do not care for it. But there were some recent revelations, some things that came to light. And I am, of course, talking about this photo that you posted to Twitter yesterday. And that you told people that if they felt the need to stop following you because of it, that you understood. And I feel that it is very necessary for me to weigh in on this. And I need to say, that's a little more peanut butter than I personally would have used. I feel like it could sort of potentially overpower the mint at that point. But in general, mint with peanut butter, actually really good, highly underrated, definitely recommended.
So true! The ratio was off. I'll agree with you. The ratio was a bit off. But I'm so happy. I'm so glad.
Legitimately, one of my go-to orders at ice cream places, mint chocolate chip ice cream, Reese's peanut butter cups. That ends up just getting that right blend of it. That, like I said, peanut butter can be a bit strong, so I don't like to have too much of it. But the only thing that initially disturbed me was, at first glance, this looked like you were eating it off of a plate and not a bowl. And then I took another look and saw the depth and was like, okay, so good, she's not a heathen eating ice cream off of a plate, because that frankly would have been far more disturbing to me.
It just didn't feel like washing a bowl.
Well, no, that's fine. No, I don't.
They were
well,
like,
I don't mind.
I'm fine with the flavor, but why are you eating off of paper? I'm like,
well, no, the paper was not what disturbed me. The fact that at first glance it looked like a plate and not a bowl was what had me scared initially. And then I realized, oh no, wait, there is depth there. It just, because of the top-down angle initially, I didn't see the depth.
It's a bit of an optical illusion.
That's all good. Yeah. Peanut butter and mint chocolate chip, good stuff, folks.
I have no comments. I don't need to defend myself. I am,
obviously, you do not.
There's no controversy to be addressed, I suppose. It was quite tasty, thank you.
Yes, good. Sorry, I couldn't resist opening with it.
It's no problem. I understand.
But yes, now that we have that very serious matter taken care of, how have you been?
I've been good. I've been either sleeping a lot or not sleeping very much. Today I slept a lot, so it was a wonderful day. I have some nice tea here. I'm all settled up. I've been looking forward to this.
Yes, me too.
I'm excited.
We spoke earlier in the week and we realized that we actually have a lot in common, and just sort of as things kept going, we were like, oh, we have this in common too. And then I saw the mint chocolate chip and ice cream and I was like, well, this just keeps adding up.
Yeah. How did we end our pre-interview? You were like, do you have any other questions? I was like, yeah, do you want to be friends?
I was like, oh yeah, absolutely.
You asked my two favorite games. It's the first thing you asked.
Yes.
And once I answered, you were like, oh, this is going to be so easy.
Oh yeah, I was like, oh man, this show's just going to be great. This stuff writes itself, because the two games that you mentioned were Pokemon Snap and Sonic Adventure 2, and I will let you decide which to discuss first, because I could go on for a while about either.
I think there's so much to say that I don't know where to begin. I think Pokemon Snap is a game that's aged wonderfully against all odds.
Yeah, the only real complaint I have against the original is it's too short. That's the
so
only
true.
thing. That's the only thing.
I finished it in like half a stream on stream. I was like, I gotta show you guys my favorite game, and it was over before I knew it. I was so disappointed.
It was so good, and it felt like it was meant to be sort of a tech demo for something larger. And
I can see that, yeah.
That I wonder if there was ever a second game in development prior to New Pokemon Snap, which came out about a year and a half, 2 years ago at this point, but that was around a 20-year hiatus for the series that I, like many others, I think sort of assumed at that point that, okay, it was sort of the one and dones, because if you think about it, Pokemon has been very adventurous with their spin-offs, but they rarely commit to anything beyond 1 or 2 games.
No, it's true. I joked for a long time that we would never get a Pokemon Snap remake. That was like the main thing I looked for whenever I did watch the Nintendo Directs, which I don't do too often. I'm only, I don't know, I've played video games as like a hobby my whole life, and it's only once I started streaming that I felt like I was taking them more seriously. And it's been fun, so I've enjoyed that. But I was never one to like check out what all's coming out or like favor particular series or studios, you know. But I did always hope that we'd get more Pokemon Snap, and then once they finally announced it, I was like, it's gonna suck. This is gonna be nothing like what I wanted.
Especially after 20-odd years that you have that fear of, oh gosh, can it live up to the original? Can it be done right?
Exactly, yeah. But then I got it, and I was like, oh no, it's really fun. Oh, it's beautiful. Oh no, it's everything I wanted. It was much longer, too.
Oh yeah, the only thing that I didn't care for in the new one is I felt some of the achievement shots were very convoluted, that I had to use a guide for some of those things of, okay, you need to throw
this.
You have to throw a ball
this angle,
from this angle, and it's like only available for 10 seconds at the very start of a level, and then to get the shot, you need to be looking at the right place at the end of the level, because the Pokemon that you disturbed at the beginning of the level has now gone off and done this thing. And I can understand the, all right, do A thing and then it triggers thing B later in the level, but some of these were really difficult to figure out.
I mean, I agree. I think it's true. I'll be a bit controversial and say that Pokemon Snap is something I am so nostalgic for that having to go about it that way almost feels like having to look up like the game facts.
Oh yeah.
Oh, here's what you do to unlock Mewtwo and Melee. You know,
this did not keep me from enjoying the game. I'm saying that I have to look so far for something that I actually think is a problem that's all I have.
Right. Well, fair enough.
It's like, okay, some of the things that you were doing were a little bit stretched, and I felt like I had to look up a guide, and, well, that's the worst of the problems. That's a pretty good game in my book.
Exactly. I agree. I still need to finish it on stream. I ended up playing it entirely off stream, and I regretted it very much. I was like, I don't know why I did that. But I wouldn't be against playing it again. I love a good Pokemon Snap.
I actually need to get back to it. That I got busy with a couple things, and I think I only had like 1 or 2 worlds left. But that's because I took my time with it. That I felt like, okay, I want to get everything I can in this biome level before I move on to the next one. Because once I go on to the next, I'm going to be less motivated to go backwards. And so I just really, really took my time. And somewhere along the line, I just got busy with other things and didn't get to pick it back up when I should. And just the scenes were so good. The underwater one, when it got to the boss, quote unquote, of the water one.
They're all so nice. I really like that in the new. So in the old one, you would just snap a photo, you know. But in the new one, it's like you got to get like the 1 to 4. 1 star, 2 star, 3 star, 4 star, and I thought that was so cool because it's like there's a ton of replay value, you know.
Yes.
I want this Pokemon to do this, but if I do this, it does a different pose. It's quite nice. I liked it a lot.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite Pokemon?
Vulpix is my favorite Pokemon.
Ooh,
big Vulpix fan, but I think every tsundere liker likes Vulpix.
I never really thought of Vulpix as a tsundere Pokemon.
Really? I've always thought
like that it's definitely it's a classic. You know, it's one of the original Gen 1 Pokemon. It's very cute. It got some good screen time because Brock brought one around for a while that was adopted. And I do recall that it would sometimes use Flamethrower on him, but to be fair, he deserved it a lot of the time.
So true.
So what really?
It's
Is there
less that
something I'm
Vulpix
missing?
is a tsundere, and more just for some reason I think the vibe that Vulpix has appeals to people who like tsunderes.
Because
Difficult to explain.
Vulpix is definitely a regal type of Pokemon. That Vulpix and Ninetales are both, very majestic and refined in that they seem sort of like high class in a way. But I don't know. But that's now I'm sort of interested. It's like, okay, what type of archetype does each Pokemon sort of channel, and that's a very interesting thought experiment. That almost feels like a tier list in its own right. Of the tiers here
That's a good
aren't
idea.
like S through F, but the tiers are the categories of the different
What archetype?
arrays.
Yeah. Oh, that's so cute. I have a big Vulpix card collection. I'm trying to get one of each release.
How many are there at this point? Because
God, I don't know.
again, being something from
many.
Gen 1. Now, fortunately, since it's Vulpix specifically and not Ninetales, that means I would assume that the vast majority of the cards are going to be common, uncommon, not rare. So
They're much less
it's
expensive than a
gonna
lot of
be relatively
Ninetales.
cheap, and that even if you want like the foil versions, because I know I haven't played the Pokemon TCG in a very, very long time, but I know that they have like reverse foils for non-rare cards. But I'd assume even for those cards that you're only going to be paying like a quarter, maybe $1. That they're not going to see competitive play.
Well, exactly, yeah. I'm more of a collector than a player. The only TCG I ever played was Weiss Schwartz.
But that's the best. But that's the best position to be in as a collector, when the thing that you want to collect are the commons and uncommons, because you just have some attachment there, because it means you're not having to spend these crazy amounts of money, and that you can very realistically, very cheaply have a complete set of Vulpix and not be breaking the bank. So
That's the
really,
intent.
that's the best way to be.
I've been collecting Digimon cards too, but I've only been collecting Lilymon. And I was in the clear. They put them out for so cheap, and then a recent set put out like a few $100 card. I was like, this can't be happening to me. There's no way.
Oh no.
I do not have her, but I will someday.
Someday, yes. How many Vulpix cards do you have at this point?
You want me to check? I can pull it out.
Sure, by all means.
The closet. All right.
Please stand by, folks. Also, thank you to Oboro Asano for the follow. Welcome on in. Actually, while we're at it, let me
Got a
give...
binder just for her. Though I suppose the Ninetales are in here too. Do you have any Pokemon that are your favorite while I'm counting this up?
My favorite Pokemon is Metagross. It almost feels like low-hanging fruit because it's a pseudo-legendary, but just, I don't know, the badass supercomputer steel psychic tank always just sort of got me in that I really enjoy using it in-game, because it's never felt broken, but always felt really viable,
Sure, makes sense. Are you a competitive Pokemon guy? I've got 40, by the way. Just kidding.
How many, did you say 40?
Yeah.
Okay, honestly, that's not as many as I expected. Because is that everything that has been printed to date, or are you still assembling?
No, oh god, no. I'm still still adding them.
Because I feel like you could just go to TCG Player and just pop in everything, and like I said, probably be paying less than $1 a card even after shipping.
A lot of the times, yeah. It makes it quite easy. But God, I love browsing. I'm a chronic put things in my cart online window shop and then close the tab.
Honestly,
like
again, a good way to be.
TCG Player is so strong that way.
There's a lot of people that would be saving a lot of money if they went about things that way.
I do not know how many carts I've abandoned in TCG Player. Too many, probably.
Yeah, for competitive Pokemon, I've never played competitive. I will tune in to Worlds usually, because I've played the games enough that I can understand what's going on competitively, that, even if I don't know what the meta is, or if I'm not smart enough to think of, to put weakness policy on my Colossal, that when I see it in practice, I was like, oh, okay, yes, I know what that item does.
I can understand the value of this, sure.
I see where they were going with that. I see why this is a very powerful play happening, and that it's very watchable, and that the shoutcasters are very good. But I'm not going to be tuning in for every regional tournament or playing in any of them myself. But what about you? Do you have any interactions with competitive Pokemon?
I don't know. Every once in a while, I'll watch a Sonic Adventure 2 speedrun. Or I watched a speedrun for this old like snowboarding PlayStation 2 game I used to play called SSX Tricky, and it was real fun.
Yes. That honestly.
Did you also really?
Well, so I can't say that I've watched it, but as soon as you said snowboarding game for PlayStation 2, I was like, is that SSX? Because just to be fair, there are not many snowboarding games, so.
That's one that I really want to play on stream. For sure.
It's so cool how the speedrunning community, that there's always going to be a fan of a game that loves it enough to speedrun it. Even if it's not necessarily the biggest out there, that there's always going to be a ton of people doing Super Mario 64 speedruns. There's always going to be a ton of people doing Pokemon speedruns, a ton of people doing Legend of Zelda, but that you have folks doing SSX Tricky, or sometimes you have for more niche Sonic games or just whatever. That
exactly.
There's always going to be somebody doing it, and that whether it's, okay, I'm just really, really optimal at this and I know the level layout just backwards and forwards, or okay, I'm using a ton of glitches and getting this game done in unnaturally small
however many
amounts of time.
seconds, yeah.
I still think that similar to high-level Pokemon, it's not something that I engage in, that I've never invested the time for speedrunning, but that, every so often I'll watch a speedrun, especially if it's like, the game's done quick, or that I've actually done hosting for it's Fast-Paced Games is it's a charity event done by one of my past guests, Amber Cyprian, and that they've done it a couple times, and that I've hosted a couple segments where they do speed runs, and I certainly have no idea how the runners are doing what they do, but it's cool to watch.
Well, it's neat to watch. I used to be someone who was like, why would I want to watch a speed run if I'm not in that community, But sometimes when you watch it, it almost feels like magic. I have no idea. Sometimes they do it like frame perfect. It's crazy, and it's really interesting to watch them like plow through levels and be like, oh, I did this here, this is why this works. It's just so neat, I don't know.
And especially if you can either get a runner or a commentator that's able to explain, okay, they're coming up on this thing and they're going to do this thing, this is how that happens. That when I say I was hosting, that I was doing the in-between segments and calling out donations because it's a charity event. So I'd say, thanks such and such for a donation, and then reading out whatever silly thing they wrote along with it. And then passing it back off to the actual commentators who were the knowledgeable ones.
More familiar with the games themselves.
That's the advantage of being a host for that type of thing. You don't actually need to know jack. You just read the things they put in front of you. It's
Do you like a game? Do you have a nice voice? Here you go. Here. Essentially, yeah.
Yeah. Do you think you would ever want to potentially do speedrunning for, whether it be Pokemon Snap or maybe Sonic Adventure 2?
Be so fun. I've thought about doing it for Sonic Adventure. I joined a Discord community for it, but I got so intimidated by how down pat people have it that I never ended up pursuing it.
It's a
that's a game that's been
to
done to death and back.
That just when you know a game like that, you know it, and that if you were to look at the leaderboards for the types of thing, it definitely has always been sort of an intimidating type of thing to get into. But that's why it's still fun to watch.
But I am also the type of person to kind of throw myself at stuff until it works. So it seems like the kind of thing if I wasn't careful, I could get very into, actually.
Yes, another dangerous rabbit hole.
But I was surprised because the SSX Tricky one specifically, it had to be GDQ hosted because that's really the only speedrun thing I follow on Twitch. It was a VTuber doing it. I was so surprised. And I think, post-COVID, with things being more like virtual, remote, the door to doing remote things is more open now. I was so happy to see it. I was like, oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. And most of the folks who were doing the speedruns in fast-paced events were facecam streamers. Amber obviously being VTuber themselves, that's how I initially met them. But
really?
Amber Cyprian, like I mentioned, they don't actually stream as much nowadays. They've been doing more event organization, and that's really taken up most of their time.
That kind of thing can be super time consuming, life
especially
consuming.
if you're the organizer, that not just a runner having to spend time practicing the runs, but actually coordinating really any event of magnitude where you're having to deal with a lot of folks for it.
Well, it's a totally different scale for sure. I've got a friend that helps out with GDQ stuff. And sometimes we just don't hear from it for a few months, you know. It's that kind of thing.
You trust they're doing fine. They're just sort of buried under
all the stuff. It makes them happy, so they're thrilled, you know. It's a good place to be.
Yeah.
Doing something they love.
Hopping back to Pokemon Snap for a minute, if you could design Pokemon Snap 3, are there any features, biomes, concepts that you would want to see from the game?
The most choony thing I can say is that I want a cave filled with crystals. That's the only level I want.
Because they had the cave level in the original, and there's some caves
there's
in the
like
new
a
one,
few here and there,
like
but I love
really
that kind
shiny
of
crystal
aesthetic.
one,
With reflections maybe.
Yeah.
That they don't count the
actually,
photo. I don't know.
That'd be very interesting, because if you do crystals, and can we get the game to recognize the reflection of the Pokemon in crystals as legal pictures? Because then you have the whole concept of reflections.
Oh, I thought I saw this. Where was it actually?
Yeah, but also that because of the reflections and distortions in the crystals, that you can get pictures in there that literally are unnatural. That you can get better shots than you could ever actually get.
So cool.
Ooh. That'd be really
or
interesting
one that's like you can only see it from behind, but in the reflection you see it from the front.
Yeah.
Oh. I'm coming up with this on the fly, by the way. This is not something I've been.
This is great. This is great. Like, hey, Pokemon Company, hire her.
Hire me. I was mid-sip. Sorry. Hire me.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. I hadn't even thought of that. But for me, if I could design a level, not. Honestly, I asked this question without thinking of an answer for it myself. Well, maybe a space level. Like, we had the space level with Mew. That doesn't freaking count. It was just
that was a Mew level. That was not a space level.
You know, here, how's this for handoff transitions? That if we had a space level for Pokemon Snap that was similar to the space levels in Sonic Adventure 2, that, think of Meteor Herd or Cosmic Wall and the like, of just that you're out in space among the asteroids, and that there's plenty of outer space Pokemon that we have, Solrock, Lunatone, Deoxys, and that you could justify really basically any steel type Pokemon, anything that doesn't need to breathe technically, being out there, or just different types of mythical or psychic Pokemon saying that they're able to make a barrier around themselves so they're able to breathe or whatever.
Oh, it'd be so sick. Oh, it'd be so cool. Yeah, they're not minions, are they? I forget their name. The little meteor guys. Someone said in chat.
Yes.
Is it Minion? I can't remember. I'm sure chat will know. I'm not too worried.
I'm literally googling it right now.
Meteor.
Thank you. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, Meteor. Okay, but they're little. Oh. I do love a good water level, a good lava level.
Yes.
And they're in both, but we need more. We always need more.
And certainly that water and fire Pokemon being among the most populated types, there's always going to be need for those types of levels, even if they make a third game. Maid Cafe level. That's actually an interesting concept, because you had
like an indoor or an urban one. Ooh.
Because they had in the second game that the research facility itself was a level.
Yeah.
So the concept of more indoor levels where you have, a maid cafe that there's all the different cat Pokemon.
Oh, like fairy types. And that's types so cute.
That obviously you will have to work with the smaller scale ones, but I feel like there's more than enough that would be realistic and fit in terms of size indoors that you could make that a viable one.
Oh, I'd love like an indoor or an urban Pokemon Snap level. That's so cool. Someone said a moon crater with Clefairy. Oh, so cute. So cute.
And we are getting a completely urban Pokemon game coming up soon. Which
are we? Wait, what was it?
Pokemon Legends ZA.
Are they making another Legends? I heard it was good. I didn't get to play it. No!
Oh my gosh, you didn't see this, Takako! Oh, I'm so excited. I get to give you some really cool news.
Oh! I'm excited. I've heard Legends Arceus was really, really, really good.
It was the most fun I've had playing a Pokemon game in a long time.
Really?
It just broke the mold in a lot of ways. I hate using this term, but the core game loop was addictive as heck.
Ooh.
Just being able to go back and just catch Pokemon, it felt so seamless and natural. Battling very much takes a back seat to the exploration catching mechanics, and I was fine with that. They experimented with some very, very different things for battle mechanics that you could use different styles, basically, that you could do an attack that did less damage, but then get higher speed for it, and that you could and there was actually potential to do back-to-back attacks based on speed and other things that if you think sort of really classic JRPG where there's the speed bar, and they didn't quite have that, but same concept of timing. And while I would never want that in a mainline Pokemon game, I'm all for them doing off-the-wall different stuff in their spin-offs, and that I think it fit very nicely there. But highly recommend Legends Arceus. Very, very fun.
I gotta pick it up then. That sounds like a blast. I guess they made a sequel to this, but I just finished Pokemon Stadium on stream. I haven't played Stadium 2.
The classic.
But a long time ago, I streamed Pokemon Pinball, which is another game I really loved as a kid. They made another one of that, right? Later on? Ruby and Sapphire, I think?
They made one for the GBA.
I'd love for them to make another one of those, man. I'm a big pinball fan.
But, so Legends Arceus takes place in the past. It was old Sinnoh, and it was you basically being part of the Survey Corps that was pioneering the area, that you have the main city, and it goes from being this very small village into a thriving, certainly not modern city, but you see people moving there as, you know, people hear,
like settling.
There's this place where they have people who are protecting the village because wild Pokemon, you know, attacking small settlements was a issue in that day, and that sort of parallel to real world development, that, you know, small settlements would be prone to attacks by, you know, wolves or wild animals of varying types, and that as people conglomerated together basically, and that there was basic protections from the elements, that more people went there because it was just a safer place to live, and that you have that done there, and you get to see all these parts of the Sinnoh region before they are actually developed. But
that's really cool.
But Legends ZA, we don't have full details on it yet, but that the concept from the trailer is that it is the urban redevelopment project of Lumiose City in Kalos.
No shot.
The entirety of the game, the only thing that we've been told so far is that the entirety of the game is within the city of Lumiose.
I'm so excited.
They're just going to be
really good.
expanding this huge thing, and that we're going to have, you know, not quite the traditional biomes of the lake and, you know, lava
Forest
and whatnot,
and stuff.
but that I assume some way or another that we'll have, you know, the park, which is where we'll probably find grass Pokemon, and maybe there will be the boiler area where we can find fire Pokemon and different water things. So we really don't know what's gonna happen. That the trailer they released was very vague and conceptual. It was more of just a hype package than anything. They did not show any gameplay, but I'm very excited for it, and they said that's going to be out next year.
Can you explain to me what a Mega Pokemon is? Because I know that people got like really excited that Megas were back for this, right?
So that was also in Kalos, which was like Gen 5.
X and Y?
Yeah, X and Y, and that certain Pokemon, Samnit, Super Saiyan Pokemon, basically, that if you look up, you know, Mega Charizard or Mega Lucario, that you see...
Wait, okay, all right. I know, okay. I know the Mega Charizard X and Y.
Yeah. And that you had different Megas for different types of Pokemon, which was sort of the generational battle mechanic gimmick, that you have terrestrialization in the most recent one, and then there was Gigantamax prior to that, there was Z-moves prior to that. I'm forgetting a couple of these, but Megas was really, now that I think about it, the first generation battle mechanic that they didn't really have anything in Gen 4 prior.
I guess not, huh? I guess not. I bought like every Pokemon gen, right? Up until I think I stopped finishing them around Diamond and Pearl, which I've heard is a terrible mistake. And then I think the last one I bought for a long time was Y. I didn't get Sun and Moon. I didn't get Sword and Shield. I got Pokemon Violet. And I thought it was pretty fun, but I know a lot of people don't.
I also thought it was very fun that I didn't have any of the more absurd issues that people were posting online for graphical glitches. Yeah, the camera sometimes flew under the scene for like a second, but it usually corrected itself very quickly, and I never had an outright crash or anything.
We talked a bit about Deadly Premonition during the pre-interview, but I love broken games. I love games that don't work the way they're supposed to. So if I ever get a glitch, I just have fun.
They were not polished visually for the overworld, but the game ran just fine, and that I have never, even on the many posts online of people saying, "Oh, the game did this really weird thing," I've never once seen somebody post
through the sky,
and I've never seen somebody post a issue of the game breaking in battle. That, if you think about it, the most technically complex part of the game is the battle mechanics and the literal millions upon millions of potential iterations of attacks, abilities, stats, what have you, and that everything in the battle is completely structurally sound. It always works.
Sure,
and
makes sense.
It's almost ironic that it's the overworld, the part that, by all rights, should be more technically simplistic, but obviously is of technically larger scale that just didn't have the visual polish.
I liked the ability to catch Pokemon outside of battle in that too, which I hear is a trait shared with Arceus.
Yes,
I think that's something that you can do.
That's one of the main parts of that, of just you being able to stealth up behind a Pokemon, and that you actually get a higher catch rate if you throw the ball with the Pokemon from behind.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. I was still pretty disappointed, I'd say, with, I can't say Scarlet, but Violet. And I guess it's because I think we talked a little during the pre-interview. I said that I play Pokemon Go. I went to this like Pokemon Go event that felt like a real Pokemon adventure. And I said I think Snap is very good at like making the player feel like they're having that Pokemon exist in real life, that kind of fantasy that every kid had. And I think I was disappointed in Violet because there was so much base. There's so much stuff all over the place, but there's like nothing in it. I thought it felt really empty. There'd be these huge sprawling fields, but like there's nothing to do that. You know what I mean? I don't know.
I actually suggest Arceus. I think that Legends did a better job that, yes, there is a fair bit of open space there as well, but I think that they used the
not
space
so much
and the
that
overall...
it felt...
and I just think the overall environment that they used felt more alive.
I'll have to check it out. It sounds very good. It sounds like the kind of thing I would very much like to play.
Yeah, and we're still pretty far from that dream game that I feel most Pokemon fans have wanted, of a really, truly living, breathing,
immersive
game. But we're getting there. The Pokemon Company, unfortunately, does not necessarily have the business motivation to be quite
to
so
do their
aggressive.
best.
For better or worse, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet were the best console exclusive games by sales for opening week
That's
ever.
crazy. That's so undeserving.
10 million units in 3 days, Takako.
I liked the game, and that's so undeserving. It was not that good a game.
It speaks very much to Pokemon's place as a cultural institution, that Back in the day, Takako, I'm sure that your parents said at one point, or that you saw, oh, Pokemon's a fad. It's going to be here and gone. And the highest grossing multimedia franchise ever. And it's not
Crazy.
close.
That's so crazy. But then again, look at me. I'm, redacted age. I'm still collecting cards.
Yep.
I still play the games.
Yep.
Can I say?
I still play every mainline game, and my level of engagement there is I'll play up through beating the Elite Four, and beating maybe if there's like the extra boss
Some
at the
post
end.
game, sure.
But that I've never completed a Pokedex. Well, actually, except Legends Arceus, because in Legends Arceus, and this is not a spoiler. This is literally told to you the opening of the game.
That's fine.
That if you collect every Pokemon, you get to fight Arceus.
Oh.
The opening line of the game is capture every Pokemon.
So that's your goal.
That is the goal, to literally catch them all. And that for the ability to actually fight Arceus, that was the motivation I needed to actually complete the Pokedex for once. That if there was something like that in mainline games, maybe I would do it. I'm not going to go that far just for the little certificates. I do not get that much joy just from seeing the Pokedex pages filled. Sorry.
See, I do. I can't say that I've ever completed a Pokédex, which is quite embarrassing. But I do get that little thrill of filling in all the, all the slots, all the pages. So having that be the main goal of the game versus just beating the gym leaders is very cool. I think prioritizing that aspect of it. That sounds like something I would like a lot.
So, yep. All right. Chat goes to Jeans. Be sure to remind her that Legends Arceus, good game. Yes.
They will tell me this once a month if you say that.
Is there a type of Pokemon game, a spin-off that has not happened yet that you would like to see from the series?
Ooh. Not off the top of my head. I haven't played Mystery Dungeon. I hear that was an RPG, right? I think.
Not a traditional RPG, but an RPG for sure, yes. And I would say that the Mystery Dungeon games have the best plot of any Pokemon game.
Okay. Someone said kart, someone said tennis. I would actually love a Pokemon sports game. That sounds so fun.
That's very interesting. A Pokemon Olympics game. In that you have, Dodrio and the different fast ones doing the various speed competitions. You have the fighting Pokemon doing, shot put or, deadlift for competitions and whatnot. That they had Sonic and Mario at the Olympics.
Pokemon Stadium mini games almost, which everyone always loved. Just make a whole game of that.
It is incredible how well the only 9 mini games of Pokemon Stadium have aged, and that if you were to say, hey, Jay, you want to go do a Pokemon Stadium mini game battle right now, it'd be like, oh, hell yes, I would. And just you don't need... I think the Mario Party franchise is awesome. I thoroughly enjoy it still. But the fact that Pokemon Stadium got by on 9 games...
That's crazy. We haven't had a Pokemon mini game, have we?
Not
That's
really.
Nuts.
No.
I would love that. I'd love to play a Pokemon Mario Party kind of game.
I would love
There's so many little things you could do too.
Or just give me a proper Stadium 3. I honestly thought for a very long time that for all the normal spin-offs that they do, I understand them wanting to be more adventurous and not necessarily commit to any spin-off long term. But I feel like they could have made a generational Stadium game, because in and of itself, it's just a battle simulator, and that, throw in a small handful of mini games. I'd like to get more than 9 per generation, but 25 or something, maybe it doesn't need to be Mario Party scale. You don't need to put in a board.
It would be
just
nice,
do
but it doesn't
games.
have to.
But just do that, and even just the rental system, it makes for such an interesting environment. In that we sort of got it with what was it, Pokemon Battle Revolution?
Yeah, when I finished Stadium and I started asking about 2, a lot of people said that Battle Revolution was like functionally a Stadium 3 kind of. They liked it a lot.
Yeah, that it was solid. I would have liked it to be a bit more than just the battle simulator.
Oh, are there no mini games?
There are no mini games. No, that it's just the battle simulator, and that a lot of it is dependent on you actually importing Pokemon from your own games.
Oh, is that like the Pokebank thing?
No, you would just be able to connect your DS.
Okay.
I forget exactly how it worked, but I don't recall. I don't think they had a full rental system like they did in Stadium. Yeah.
Interesting.
But in terms of like aesthetics and just for being a very pretty 3D battle simulator, it does hit that spot. It's probably the best battles have ever looked, even to this day.
Oh, someone said there was a rental system, but it was nowhere near as good as Stadium. Okay,
oh, that's right. Yeah, because didn't they have like
no.
was it pre-constructed teams or?
Oh, really?
I can't. It's been a long time. I legitimately can't remember. Okay, yeah, that's what it was, because it was pre-constructed teams, but it wasn't the
okay. I see.
Not
like a
rental
free
system
pick
where you can pick 6 and assemble your
I see.
team.
Well, what's the point then?
Yeah.
I see.
But still, it was a solid game. Not, not the quality, or I shouldn't say not the quality. It was not the depth of a normal Pokemon game, because it was just that. It was just the battle simulator.
Sure.
But for what it was meant to be, it looked and operated very well.
There's so many games to play. There's so many games to try out and play. The backlog is so big.
Speaking of franchises that are just criminally discontinued, the fact that we never got Sonic Adventure 3 will forever baffle me.
This is so sad. This is so sad.
I still think
we did? What do you mean we did? It's called Sonic 06?
No.
Oh, they're messing with us. I see.
Absolutely not.
Okay.
I am proud to say I have never played Sonic 06. I've seen enough of that even secondhand to know. Just
I told the Goshijins that I'd get drunk and play it sometime.
That does sound like a good,
I'm still waiting for a rainy day.
Like, maybe that's... I need to go look at, is Sonic 06 available on Steam? I don't think it is.
No, play it. It's funny.
I don't think, because if it was available on Steam, I would make a charity marathon goal of playing that game. That would do it.
It's not, but it's easy. Oh, I see.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe
I'm
I
so
would do that.
particular about which Sonic games they have on Steam. I don't know.
But you know what is available on Steam? Sonic Adventure 2, and it's only $10.
Is it only $10? Oh, it is only $10.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Incredible.
And
breathtaking game. I feel like Sonic Adventure 2 would be a really frustrating game to play if you didn't play it as a kid. I think it's an excellent game. I wonder how much I would love it if I didn't have that nostalgia. But I think it's so excellent.
That part of it is nostalgia, but I will still defend it and say that even if it's not a perfectly assembled game, the camera can be a bit wonky at times. That it still is, especially when you look at some of the other Sonic games. That obviously 06 was a particularly problematically designed game, but I think Adventure 2 just hit a really good sweet spot for style and substance, and if anything, that's one that I look and say, just do a proper remake, because anything that makes that game frustrating, I think, can be polished out.
I guess so. I feel like the jank of it is part of what's good. I know that's like that sounds kind of obnoxious to say, but like I think it feels so good to play, kind of because there's like you just go so fast, you fly all over the damn place.
And that
you know what I mean? I think toning that down at all would change it.
That I still think that the original Sonic, like Dreamcast Sonic the Hedgehog, I think that game is more difficult to get a hang of than Sonic Adventure 2, because with the original Sonic in particular, again, you go so fast, and yes, that is the point, but that I feel once you get past some of the early levels, you need to actually be anticipating what the stage is doing, that it's not, all right, you get to it and you react to it. It is, you are going so fast, if you didn't know it was there, you will die.
That was my complaint about Sonic Advance. I was playing it on stream. I was getting so mad.
That game is not a platformer. That game is a rhythm game in disguise. It's actually a rhythm game because you need to know where the beats are and be ready to hit the beats. It's just not presented as a rhythm game.
And then they punished me for mindlessly going fast. Just doesn't feel right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, my cat is here. Hello. Have you seen my cat? She's quite cute. She's
I have heard your cat. I have not seen your cat.
Oh, let me show you my cat.
Chat,
oh, that's her in the chat. Naishwin. She's a hypoallergenic Siberian cat, and she is the sweetest creature in the entire world.
Oh my gosh. Because I'm allergic to cats, so hearing hypoallergenic cat just makes me so happy.
All of my friends and family were allergic, so even though I don't know, Siberians are like a show breed, so I had to spend like a lot of money to get her. But if the other option was like all of my friends and family can't go near this cat, yeah. I wanted to.
That's very much me. I once had an instance where after going to a friend's house with a cat, I sneezed myself into exhaustion. Just
oh my god!
That my allergies to cats are not deathly. It's not, I'm gonna break out in hives and stop breathing, but it is very runny nose, itchy, watery eyes, possibly a slightly scratchy throat, just a bad time.
She's rubbing your face on the microphone.
However,
she's acting out. Yes.
After the fact, I was stuffed up and blowing my nose, and I blew my nose a little bit too hard, and a little bit of air leaked out of my lungs.
What? Wait, what does that mean?
So,
like you had a puncture in your lungs?
Yes.
Oh my god!
It was so stuffed up that when you're blowing your nose, that you are inflating your lungs a bit, and it's then being forced out your sinuses. But my sinuses were so stuffed up that the air did not come out of my nose, and since I was closing my mouth to blow my nose, the air had nowhere to go, and I blew a little bit too hard, so
oh my god!
A little bit leaked out of my lungs, and I did not realize this at first. It wasn't until an hour or two later, I was like, my chest is this is painful.
Oh my god!
Like deathly pain, but it was like something's wrong. So went to the hospital, and they're like, yeah. They're like, fortunately, it's not a life-threatening thing. It's not common, but the doctors took an X-ray, and they were like, oh, we know exactly what this is. The air is going to get reabsorbed into your system over like a couple of days. You shouldn't go on an airplane anytime soon because the
anything
pressure
that would fuck up the pressure.
And actually, fortunately, I was supposed to be on a flight in 2 days, so I took a train across the country.
Oh my god!
It was great.
Was it a lot more expensive, or?
Oh no, you can get an Amtrak train from DC to San Francisco, and it might take 3 days or something, but it's probably going to cost as much, if not less, than
That's not bad at all.
An airplane. It's not that bad.
I love riding trains.
And so that was unexpected, but the worst pain was really that first 24 hours of just, okay, I need to know how to position myself. But like I said, that the air gets reabsorbed into the system. It wasn't like, holy cow, I blew a huge hole in my lungs. It was just
the air shot out of my chest.
A little bit of it leaked out into the chest cavity. They were like, if this ever happens again, that if it happens multiple times, you might need a surgery. But fortunately, knock on wood, I haven't had it since. And that if surgery were to be needed, that they were like, this is a very low risk surgery. It would be basically we patch it a little bit. But so that's
new fear.
That was an interesting time. Learn new things about the body that day.
Well, not that long ago, I sneezed so hard I threw my back out. I didn't even move anything heavy. I don't know what happened. I just sneezed. I was like, oh, something doesn't feel right. Interesting. And then every time I laid down, I couldn't get up for the next few days. I was like, what happened?
Haven't had that, but
We should just stop sneezing, I think.
we
Too
should
dangerous.
just stop sneezing. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
And that, my allergies otherwise are just seasonal, and that once a year or something, you'll just have a bad allergy day and be sneezing a lot. But fortunately, that's the worst of it. Anyways,
I don't get
cats are
allergies.
great, and I wish I could love cats and pet cats. That I love them, they love me. I swear cats can tell who's allergic to them.
They definitely
They
can.
definitely can. It's just my body that doesn't like their dander. But yeah, hypoallergenic cats are great.
You could,
Mia
you
looks
could pet
very,
Naya.
very cute with her shrimp.
She is. She loves her stuffed shrimp. Oh God.
Trying to remember how we even got on that. Oh yeah, because basically Mia was just.
She was making
couple-
noise. Yeah.
No, she was
She was just
purring during the
chatting.
pre-interview. Like I could hear her purring. She was a happy cat.
She is. She's a. My chat used to call her a bee cat because she's full of bees. Yes. Even in chat, they're saying bee cat.
There have been many fuzzy friends who have been guest stars on Vtuber Talk.
Oh really?
Yeah, it just sometimes you hear the bark in the background. It's like, okay, so who's this making a guest appearance? What type of dog are they? But
Are they
you're
a
even
good
prepared
boy?
that as soon as I said, can I see the cat? That chat's already there, and here they are again. Yeah.
I really need to. There's a Maya Pog sticker on my Discord. I really need to make it an emote. But I have more emote slots. I don't know why I haven't.
Anyways, back to Sonic Adventure 2.
This man loves Sonic Adventure 2.
but also I didn't get to ask your favorite parts of it. That what is it for you that the game just stands out as it does?
How do I say Rouge the Bat without sounding like a Coomer? I promise that's not it. I just love Rouge. I love her personality. But no, I don't know. I just think it feels really good to play. And I've heard the opposite from a lot of people who haven't played it before. They're like, "Oh, what am I supposed to do here?" I love the visuals of it. I love how the water looks. I love the Chow Garden. There's so much to like about it.
Chow Garden is criminal.
So I was collabing recently with a friend, Rurika, Tricker Sweets. We were playing a Castlevania-esque spin-off of Galgun. But she had bought me Klonoa, which I only played 5 seconds of as a kid. And it feels a lot like that. It feels very... the play style is totally different, but it has that early mid-2000s GameCube graphics with all the big gems and the mascots and all the little... I don't know. I love that kind of vibe,
Yeah, it's definitely sort of iconic of the era, I suppose. That as soon as you said the big gems, it was like, oh man,
You can see it in your head. They're rotating.
Yeah, but just not only for Sonic Adventure 2, but Spyro or Mario doesn't necessarily have gems, but the idea of the big MacGuffin thingy that you are collecting, and that it's just those types of collection platformers, for lack of a better term.
I love it.
Don't get as much, and that fortunately with the indie scene being as thriving as it is nowadays, that you're getting a lot of that being made on a smaller scale.
Well, a lot of the people who really liked those games are now old enough to make their own games.
Exactly.
So
That's
you
the
get
thing
to
of
see
just-
it again. It's quite nice.
I am very happy that we are now at a point where people can literally do the Thanos, fine, I'll do it myself, and be able to not only make their game, but actually get it into the hands of people that...
that also like that kind of game. Yeah.
I very much understand the complaints of digital games and that people want physical copies, and I think that when possible, yes, I would certainly prefer a physical copy, but a big reason that so many indie studios are able to exist is because
the low cost of digital distribution,
if
for
you're
sure.
not having to worry about the manufacturing, the shipping, and the distribution logistics required for physical games, there's so many studios that just would not have the capital or the connections to be able to literally operate if physical copies were absolutely required for a game to exist.
Exactly. I mean, I design and distribute all of my own merchandise, right? So it's I wish that physical copies of things and the distribution portion wasn't a privilege, but the cost of it really is like prohibitive. It feels like if a game gets big enough, we are able to produce these things if we're lucky, you know. Shouldn't be like that, but it is.
And then there's
unfortunately
the lead time and things of just those games need to go to print some 3 months prior to release date, if not farther in advance. And
absolutely,
if you're doing special editions that have any sort of extra packaging or
you gotta take those into consideration.
That has to happen.
That has to be tested before it's even like finalized. You gotta make sure this is something that can survive being shipped.
Yep, and you know, people complain about day one patches. It seems like a bad thing. It just no, that means that they were able to find something and fix it. Or you know, back in the day, that would mean a game is exponentially more likely to get delayed if they don't have the option to patch games because they know that they need to get it right or else. And has there perhaps been a bit of laxness in the day and age where you're able to do patches?
Yeah.
I would say a non-zero amount of laxness has happened.
Later. Yeah.
But that I'm willing to make this trade-off of the ability for people to, one, see games less delayed in general because you have the option, the ability to do this, and two, it's going to help make for a more healthy development cycle for the developers themselves, especially if they're trying to work against an announced deadline that is completely immovable because patches cannot happen, or they have to delay the game and deal with all of that fallout because it's not just the announcement and the PR, but then, again, distribution and logistics. Are there things that then need to be scheduled there? Depending on what factories you're using, are they still able to do your thing at that time? Because some of these factories have, like, reservations.
Well, yeah, absolutely. It's difficult because the more, it's probably simple. Like it's so obvious if you state it, but the more teams you involve, the more like detailed the process is. That's all time that's going to be added. That's all stuff that like could go wrong or like things that you have to take into account when you build out that timeline, you know. So it's difficult. The more moving parts there are, the more complex it is.
And I think that also makes for, you were talking about Deadly Premonition and other games that are just not good. It makes, you don't get those nowadays in days when things can get patched, and that even if a game goes out the door as broken as Cyberpunk Edge Runners, or that, you know, it can get fixed, in that Cyberpunk Edge Runners, I've not played myself, but by all accounts is now a perfectly serviceable and solid game.
That's what I hear, yeah.
But that Deadly Premonition is forever what it was, and that Sonic 06 is forever what it was. And
God bless.
If anything, I look at those and say, somebody made the decision. Somebody in a high-ranking authority office said, this is acceptable to print and ship. And that, or
I mean, it's difficult because usually I don't want to talk like I know everything, right?
Yeah.
I've never worked for a game development company, but I imagine the people who decide when things go out are not the same people checking the game itself. They're not sitting down and playing it and assessing it and saying, this is good to go. It's usually like communication between different teams, which makes it more difficult.
And even if they are, that then also says, okay, they looked at this and evaluated and quite possibly saw the flaws and said, yes, this is okay to print and ship, and that this we consider preferable to the other options we might have. And while time may have told us that was not the optimal choice, that I'm just a business nerd in general, and I find those decisions in and of themselves, even if in retrospect, you know, hindsight's 20/20, and you see obviously, well, that probably was not the right choice, but it makes me wonder, okay, what were the considerations? What was the meeting like? Did they, was it a case of, all right, the head honchos did not know what was actually being shipped and weren't looking at it? Or were they aware and, you know, had a long meeting with the executives and said, okay, do we do this? And eventually decide, yes. Those are the types of stories that I kind of wish we could get. I would love a documentary of Sonic 06. Sonic 06 documentary would be so fascinating.
I'd watch it on stream with everyone. That sounds so fun. I wish to know. I want to know how this happened. who let this happen?
The post-mortem and the ability to actually look at poor mistakes being made, one, it becomes sort of a learning thing for people in the future, hopefully. But also, it's fascinating in its own right, at least to me. But like I said, I'm just a business nerd.
Right.
Crosso of the Soul says there might be very real contracts in place not releasing a game now in order to make a broken mess would a violation that bankrupts a company. Yep, that's
so
possible.
True. Absolutely.
Yeah, especially if there's
we need the money to we need the money to finish producing it
to operate
by putting it up for order now.
Or if there's like a licensing deal and there's external parties involved.
It has to be done by this date.
Otherwise, breach of contract, yeah.
Sonic 06 turned out like it did because the lead programmer left the company and they realized it wasn't going to run on the Wii, so instead of just not making a Wii game, they split the team in half. What? Oh, God.
That's interesting. And that's another consideration of if you're releasing something near the end of a console life cycle, that even if you have the ability potentially to say, okay, we could delay this game however much we need, but what happens if the new console is out by then and that just sales for games of anything on the previous gen console is naturally going to just tank?
Well, not to bring it up again, the version of Deadly Premonition that I played was the director's cut, which was much more broken than the original. However, the original also looks the same. It looks like a PS2 game. It was released on the PS3, but development took so long around the end of the PS2 that they were like, I guess we'll just put it on the next system. So it looks like dog shit, it runs like dog shit.
I'm grappling with several things you just told me. And I feel like the tip of the iceberg is the director's cut being worse. Isn't that supposed to be okay? That's like the special edition polished version that we did take the little bit extra, or we put in more things.
How were they supposed to know what they were making? You think they check this shit? You think they can fix it? You fool. It's a very special game, really is. Oh, I adore it.
For folks who might not be familiar with it, like me, what is Deadly Premonition about? And I suppose also, what are mechanically, what genre would you put it in?
That's a good question. I wish I could answer. I'll do my best, though. Deadly Premonition
the question would be, what genre do you think it was intended to be?
It is a horror game, I guess. You play as a guy named Francis York Morgan, but call me York. Everyone does. He is an FBI investigator who is sent to a small northwestern American town, a la Twin Peaks, to investigate a murder. He is trying to find out who killed the local popular girl, a la Twin Peaks.
As you do.
And he's uncovering the secrets of this small town, right? It was very ambitious. There's a time system in it where, like, I forget what it's like every hour is like 5 or 10 minutes in real life, I think. So it's like a full clock-based thing. You can only go to certain buildings or meet certain people between different time windows.
Now, is this similar to Majora's Mask, where you have a set number of days, or is this something like Pokemon, where you have time of day, but not necessarily a deadline?
I guess it's hard to say because I didn't really miss the deadlines, if that makes sense. I don't know how it would... I don't know. I don't know how it would work if you missed them. Or what it would have you do. 'Cause it's not like a time loop or anything. You might just have to load a save, or I don't know, but...
I'm loving the commentary we're getting in chat of people trying
a lot
to help,
of different
and it's just, no, we don't quite get the same answer
We don't know
twice.
what it is. We're trying. You can do just about anything. You can, like, take up another part-time job. You can... there's, like, a set place where each character in the town is. We only realized later on that there's, like, a character for every letter of the alphabet, right?
Ooh,
so there's, like,
that's
25 NPCs that you can interact with that are, like, anywhere at any different time during the day. So
that's really interesting design.
Yes.
Just that's very creative, and even if it didn't land well, that I respect that concept.
They cared a lot about this. I think that's what's most important about like so bad it's good stuff.
Oh yeah, it needs to have heart
Because
somewhere.
there's plenty of like just garbage out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that there's plenty of just
you can tell when
shovelware.
someone cared about it. And
yeah.
Deadly Premonition swaps between like working with the police and investigating clues, and then sometimes he'll walk into a building and there's zombies. And you don't know if it's real or not, and then the segment ends and he doesn't bring it up to anyone. And who knows? I don't know. Not me.
Well.
A core gameplay mechanic is having brunch with your friends. That's true. You better make it on time. So
that explains the "this maid is simply on time" comment. I was like,
yeah, I don't know. I like it a lot. It goes some pretty wacky places. There's weird dream sequences, but there's also, I don't know, I ran into severe, not just graphical errors, like there's a cutscene where the lead character lays down in a bed and starts like monologuing, but his character model is sliding vertically, so he clips through the headboard and he just keeps going while he's talking. We're watching it live. We're like, what the fuck is going on here? He'll take a cigarette out of his mouth. A cigarette will go in his hand, but then it also stays in his mouth, so he's smoking 2 cigarettes. Those things, I guess, weren't in the original.
Got duplicated. Oh my goodness.
It's so good, man. I love this game. I told you briefly during the pre-interview, but I had to keep changing my, how do you want to run this program? The name of the feature escapes me, but sometimes every time I would enter a door, the game would close out of itself. And I would have to figure out, like, oh, I have to run it in Windows 98, and then I can enter the door. Now, the character runs twice as fast, but at least I can proceed the story. I guess you're supposed to be able to freely aim your gun during the shooting segments. But the port didn't let me aim very high or low, so the final boss was almost unbeatable because I couldn't aim low enough to hit the target.
Oh no.
It was great. I loved it.
That's a special type of broken where it's...
Yeah, every time I opened up the aiming controls, he would turn 90 degrees. He would turn 180 degrees. What Mark is talking about is I had to remap the controller twice because when I would walk to the left, I would walk up. And when I would aim to the right, I would aim down. It was all very like, it was so fun because it's not the kind of thing where you can just flip the up and down. It's rotated 90 degrees. I can't. I told myself I'd just get used to it, but I couldn't.
More broken than 180 of just
exactly.
I turn around entirely, something gets flipped, value reversed entirely. That's one thing. But
now you're
degrees,
incorporating two different.
Feels more. That feels like there's something more specific breaking somewhere. There's some variable that is not working right.
I have never navigated the Steam forums as much as I did for that game. I have never tried to find, I can't enter this door, what should I do? Only to find people saying, you have to use a cigarette in your inventory so it passes the hours quickly, and then you can leave the diner. It's just, there's no way I could have possibly known that. It's so funny. Oh, but they cared so much making it. I love this game.
Like I want to say good for them. It's like that's the making of a cult classic right there. Like you were saying, so bad it's good because people cared, and that's certainly, whether it's video games or films or TV series, that those are the ones that are able to have it because either the actors were doing their best and carrying a bad script on their back. I'm looking at you, Raul Julia, in Street Fighter. Capcom actually, apparently during an investor call recently, said that the 1995 Street Fighter movie still makes money every year, that it was tens of millions of yen, so hundreds of thousands of US dollars.
Oh my God.
Every single year, just because it's available on streaming services for buying and renting, and that enough people continue to watch and buy it every year, even though that thing is prolifically bad. Not
So
to mention
funny.
how 30 years old at this point. It still makes a not insignificant amount of money. It's not going to be changing their budgets, but that it's still on the books and doing stuff.
Oh my God. It's called passive income. It's called
Yeah.
diversifying your
But
income
the fact
sources.
that is still making passive income. There's movies that came out 5 years ago that aren't making that every
Making
year.
nothing.
And
So
that
true.
were better reviewed and not making that money.
Oh God. Yeah. So true. It's I don't know. I feel like as long as there's passion behind something, it's generally worth watching.
Yeah.
Or worth engaging with.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm trying to think, like, what are my favorites? Like, just something that's so bad.
Yeah, give me your favorites so bad it's good.
There aren't too many so bad it's good games, because I feel like it's more difficult to get a so bad it's good game than a so bad it's good movie.
Sure,
I think that
that's
it's
fair.
a lot easier to find fun in a bad movie, because even if it
Well, the
really just
movie
is by all
for 2
rights
hours.
bad, that you can sort of laugh at it and have fun that
Yeah.
way. But games, if they get to the point of literally unplayable, that even if you want to try
Yes.
and have fun with it, that it can sometimes actually become mechanically impossible. So,
Exactly.
it's like, Another terrible case of, the host asked a question that he didn't have an answer for.
It's fine. It's no problem. It simply just means you need to enjoy more so bad it's good media.
Actually, wait a minute. Now I know what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna look up my anime list, because there aren't. I'm sure there's a so bad it's good anime that
Another.
I have.
I made
there's
everyone watch
gotta be.
School Days around Christmas. That was fun.
And do you know the Tale of Ghost Stories?
I know of Ghost Stories. Yes.
That's about my extent of it too. I've seen like 2 episodes of it, and that was enough. But there's certainly a an all-timer of so bad it's maybe good. We're not quite sure.
I do love making the Ghost Jeans watch so bad it's good anime and Anime Club. I did make them watch School Days. I had them watch Diabolic Lovers. Are you familiar with Diabolic Lovers?
Familiar, haven't seen it.
Well, the episodes are only like 15 or 10 minutes long, so not a bad one to slam through. It is just an otome game. 1 girl, 6 guys, dating sim kind of thing. I think it was released for the PSP. But every guy sucks so bad. They're all just awful, awful people.
Definitely have some diabolic lovers in chat.
Oh yeah, they adore. That was the only one I left voices on while we watched. Everyone was just hollering. Are you familiar with Cypher the Video?
Cypher the Video.
Cypher the Video is an 80s OVA that is supposed to be an OVA for some like shoujo manga about this girl in New York City meeting with twin guys that she doesn't know they're twins. But when they made an OVA, they just made like a music video collection almost. It's got Footloose. It's got Let's Hear It for the Boy. It's
Okay, so
incomprehensible if you haven't
it's not
read
just
it.
a musical, but it's an anime that uses Western music.
Well, it's very hardcore Westaboo. The second half of the OVA is behind the scenes footage of them like going to New York City and doing research for the OVA.
That's actually fascinating.
It's so fun. It opens to Phil Collins. It's incredible. I would highly recommend watching Cypher the Video, not worrying about what any of it is, and just
That
going along with the ride.
just absurd enough that I would actually. we live in a wonderful age right now of there's so much media, so much cool stuff, so many games, so many anime, so many movies, so much good stuff. Like, even before you get to the so bad it's good, there's so much good stuff in that it's not possible to watch everything.
Exactly.
And that everybody has their list of, oh, I'm going to add it to the list. I'll watch this. I'll play this someday. And that for every one thing that you scratch off your list, you add 5 more.
Oh, it's so true.
Cypher,
don't say
for
it.
being an OVA, it's 20, it's like 30 minutes, 40 minutes.
Only
And
half
for
of that is
being
the real OVA.
And for this being that type of specific absurd, I will actually watch this, if not tonight, later this week. Because that's an easy enough commitment to make. I can do that.
Please do. Every line is subtitled in Japanese. They have the voice talent speak in English. They're very clearly not native speakers.
Oh, no.
It's like impossible without English subtitles to understand what any of the characters are saying in English. It's so good, man.
Also, I just realized my favorite so bad it's good media, and it's not an anime.
What?
And I don't mean to keep bringing it back to Pokemon, but are you familiar with Pokemon Live?
Are you subscribed to Jenny Nicholson's Patreon?
No.
Okay, she's a YouTuber. I think I didn't get to watch it, but she just did a video on it. I did not get to see it as a kid. I still need to watch the video. That was a live stage play.
Yes, and
in America,
Burb is
right?
correct. And Tony Award winner Andrew Rannells was indeed James in Pokemon Live. He has done interviews and called it the low point of his career. In one interview, he said that he recalls being backstage and crying.
What? Oh, I have to watch it. Ghost Jeans will watch it in the Anime Club. I'm so excited.
So, I did see it live.
You did?
I saw it live when I was like, I'm dating myself here. I was 8 or 9 years old.
Okay.
And that my mother sat through that show.
Your mother must have loved you
me
very,
and
very
my
much.
best friend, and we had a great freaking time. And the thing is, I've gone back and re-listened to it, and it's essentially. Remember from the early anime that they had Pikachu's Jukebox, the To Be a Master?
Yeah.
It was like
I have that CD.
2/3 of it, the To Be a Master soundtrack, and 1/3 of it was new.
No, they made original songs for it?
They did. They made an original Pokemon. They made Mecha Mewtwo.
What? Hold on. Frantically typing, I must know.
This, in technicality, is canon to the anime because it specifically references the first movie, and that this is after, Giovanni and Mewtwo, everything blew up, that Giovanni had a robot version of Mewtwo developed that is able to copy Pokemon attacks that it sees. So, the whole concept of the learning machine, learning AI, and that he is trying to get it to learn every Pokemon move, and that for some reason, apparently he couldn't get any other electric-type Pokemon to battle Mecha Mewtwo, so Jess and James are sent to get Pikachu so Mecha Mewtwo can learn Thunder, Shock, Thunderbolt, and Thunder, the last things it needs to know every Pokemon move. Don't worry about it. But keep in mind, this was the year 2000. This was the year 2000, and it is exactly the quality of a anime adaptation musical put to stage in the West in the year 2000. It is exactly what you expect.
Do you know what this creature looks like? Speaking of so bad it's good media, this looks straight out of the Power Rangers movie, which I was obsessed with as a kid.
It does look Sentai. It looks
Ivan
like you'd see out
Ooze
of a
looking
Super
ass.
Sentai.
Oh my god. How long has it been since you've seen the Power Rangers movie? Did you ever?
I never actually saw the Power Rangers movie.
It's wonderful.
I did not really
it's
grow
so
up
good.
with Power Rangers.
Really? I was a big Power
really
Rangers fan.
But it's actually, I will defend Pokemon Live. It is a fun show that
I will watch it.
That the crowd, for the target audience had a great time.
Did the kids love it? Oh my god.
It sold out. It did not have a long run, not because the sales were bad. It was just, it was a limited run production.
Sure.
And if I were an actor trying to, show off my chops and hopefully get into other productions, that's not the material I would be excited to perform. I do not begrudge Andrew Rannell's opinion and memories of Pokemon Live because, my goodness, I'm sure the audience had a much better time than he did. But the audience, that for what it was, and like I said, for the target audience, it was a great show.
I'm watching it this week. I'm prioritizing it. I might watch it after,
let me know.
after the stream.
I will watch it with you because it's been a minute since I've seen it. And that there are actually complete recordings of it available on YouTube that one of the stage managers had the recording and posted because it was like 20 years later and it was like, this is never going up. Pokemon, for all intents and purposes, acts like the thing doesn't exist. It is just, it's not anywhere.
I'm so glad people are not allowing this to be lost media.
And that you can listen to the soundtrack as well. That for the video itself, it's, again, exactly as grainy and low quality as you would expect the video footage of something from the year 2000 to be. So it's a little hard to watch in that sense, but you can still get the general vibe of it. But then if you want to re-listen to the songs and actually hear them in a studio recording, that those exist on YouTube as well.
So I already found it. I'll watch it tonight. I'm so excited. I'll do it in the Discord.
That might be like the post show that I might hop in for that legitimately.
Hell yeah, absolutely. Please do.
Well, if that's the case, if anything, I feel like we should hop to a different topic. But you were mentioning the anime nights that you have in your Discord. How long have you been doing those now?
We took a little break very early on, but pretty much like as soon as I started, maybe a month after I debuted, we watched Kaiji in the Discord, and it was an excellent experience.
That's one that's high up on the list of things because in a nutshell, the type of things that I like are smart people doing smart things, and Kaiji is a people doing smart things show.
Oh no, Kaiji is very dumb. But everyone around him is very smart, which is what makes it so endearing. Kaiji's great. Kaiji's greatest ability is not to win, but to survive. And I think that's a really important difference, Bad, terrible things can happen to Kaiji. Kaiji can lose very badly. So there's never there's no protagonist armor. Kaiji could put the wrong card down on the table and lose a foot. You know what I mean? That's a very real concern that can happen. So it's one of the most exciting exciting shows I've ever seen. I love Kaiji. I would highly recommend it.
Well, I guess, do you have a favorite anime? That's a very big question, I know.
Oh, I know you had asked me if I have any favorite anime during the pre-interview, and I suddenly felt like I'd never seen an anime before in my life.
Now, this is one I do have an answer for. So, fortunately, I don't need to recommend it to you because it's the next thing you're watching. My favorite anime is Code Geass.
Incredible taste. I'm so excited. We have... Alright, I don't know where to start. I watched maybe 10 episodes of Geass when it was popular, and I never finished. I watched it dubbed. I was in high school.
I actually think
the dub isn't bad. As far as anime dubs go,
strong.
It's not that bad. I didn't watch Code Geass properly until COVID hit. So until 2020, I slammed through a lot of anime on my backlog, and I watched Code Geass.
Incredibly well.
It has. I instantly went over to a friend's house who I also knew had not been outside, and I was like, "You're going to watch all of Code Geass right now." We took a week, and we watched it again.
There's many reasons I like that series, and the reason I specifically recommend the dub is it's a talking show. There's a lot of dialogue, and goodness knows, obviously, the Japanese performance, Jun Fukuyama, legendary. He's so good. But for a show with as much emotion, especially in the battles, while there's so much dialogue going on, I think you were able to genuinely get more out of the series if you're not having to spend that bit of mental energy reading the subtitles. And I'm sure that you and I, we've watched plenty of subtitle shows, and that we've gotten very good at being able to go between the visuals and the dialogue, but just not having it, I think, makes a actually tangible difference on that one. So I do recommend the dub. Also, just because I think it was actually one of the stronger dubs that we've ever had. Johnny Young Bosch, thank you very much, Sam Knit, for that call out. Yes, indeed.
I would personally disagree, but I mean, if you have a reason, like you've explained a pretty valid reason, that's fine. I respect it.
But also, just it's the right length. 50 episodes gives us enough to actually get depth without ever feeling rushed or being a run-on, and just the ending. The last 4 episodes are among my favorite ending in any media.
Really?
Just, I think it ends. I don't like saying perfectly for really anything. I think it ends about as perfectly as that series could end.
So I felt about Fooly Cooly, like word for word. I thought the dub was fantastic for Fooly Cooly. I got into it very young. I adored it. I thought it ended perfectly. I know they made more. I like to pretend they didn't. I think it did everything it set out to do.
4 seasons more. I have not seen any of them, and I've heard they aren't terrible, but also I don't know how you follow up Fooly Cooly.
Don't need to. IMO. That's just my opinion, though. I think if people enjoy it, then it's fine. It's good, but you know, I thought it was perfect, as is.
The first time I ever saw Fooly Cooly was at a friend's house, and we started at like 1 a.m., so I was sleep deprived. And watching that series when you're like, I was not under any influence of any substances. It was just sleep deprivation. But you're watching that series when you're not totally
not totally like there.
It just makes it even weirder.
It's perfect. I think some of the reason I liked the dub performances for Fooly Cooly was because they did the recordings Japanese style. They had everyone in the same room recording. Usually with Western like dubbing work, it's something they'll individually have people do. But I think with Fooly Cooly, because they had them in the same set, you can like hear them bouncing off of each other, and it's really nice. Hello, Marie. I mentioned you earlier. We were talking about Klonoa.
Yes, welcome on in, Marie. Yeah, I understand it's not necessarily practical to do dub recording in a multi-person studio setting,
right?
But when you can get it,
it makes such a difference. I think
absolutely, and especially for a series as absurd as that, I feel like if you don't, that you're going to lose something along the way. It's probably much more feasible for something like a shonen where the dialogue is a bit more
kind of takes a second
and
to the action or
for anything that's not a comedy, really. I think comedy in particular demands that you have a more exact response than what you would get from a delayed recording.
No, completely. I am very excited to watch Code Geass with everyone this Saturday.
Yeah. If you haven't seen it, folks, it's so good.
We have a lot of Goshijins who've never seen it before, or who never finished it, which I am ecstatic about.
And we're actually getting new Code Geass this next season. That they had a film.
It came out, right? But they released it. It's like 10 episodes, but they released it via theater, I think.
Because in Japan it was released in theaters, and in the West it's being released on Hulu, I believe. Hulu or Disney Plus. It's one of the Disney properties. But that it's being released this upcoming season.
The new Code Geass is released on Disney Plus.
Yeah, that's a sentence I did not expect to say.
What kind of world are we living in?
I don't know.
Oh, so funny.
And that for me, I feel like I'm playing with house money. That if this continuation is just not good, whatever. I don't feel like there's any way to taint the original for me. That this isn't going to make me like original Geass less. But if this is good, if this is even like a 7 out of 10 good, I consider that awesome. That they had the Lelouch of the Resurrection movie, which did things. And
it did things. See, I haven't seen the movies yet. Those are also in the anime club
Now,
calendar.
I'm not going to tell you anything spoilers for the Resurrection movie because I'm a big spoiler protector. That's for me, the reveals and the twists are vital, especially in a series like EOS. I would never spoil. But I will say that there is a singular retcon that they did in the compilation films that is carried over into Resurrection that if you don't know it going in, will be disorienting.
It's difficult because I believe it was Cronus that let me know that on the Discord while I was making the calendar, because I was like, oh, which of these movies do we actually have to watch? And it's difficult because he had said, like, well, the Resurrection movie is like it's a sequel to the movies. Like, they made a small change or two. So it's technically a sequel to the movies, but also it's not so different that you really have to watch
that
the
there's
movie.
Really
I don't
only
know.
One significant change, and it's a significant change. And here's where I'm gonna have sort of a hot take, and I have to not explain it in detail. I might tell you, like, off the air afterwards.
Sure,
why I think this, but especially knowing that there are a bunch of Ghost Genes who have not finished or seen the series, I cannot say what they changed in detail.
I appreciate you very much taking that kind of approach.
But I will say that the change, at first glance, seems massive. It
really?
Seems like almost a betrayal of the thing that it changes. But I think in actuality, the change is entirely insignificant to the original content.
Really?
I think that the thing that was changed would not have had any significant impact on the eventuality
on the
of
Resurrection
events,
movie.
No, on the original 50 episodes of EOS.
Oh, okay, sure.
That if this was changed and that the retcon that they did was in the original 50 episodes, it
You
still ends the same way. Everything still happens as it would, and that by making this change, they actually create greater future potential for certain things. Because the thing they changed, it allows for certain things that weren't possible.
Be explored, I suppose.
Yeah.
Sure. Interesting. I am excited. Yeah,
but I feel like that once you've seen the main series, that you should know that change going in. If you don't see the compilation films, otherwise the change will just be very confusing and jarring, and you might think, oh, is the fact that this is different? Are we now doing like timeline shenanigans? And it's not the chat.
I see.
But I will not say that here.
Okay.
And that Resurrection movie, I thought it is exactly what I wanted from a 2-hour Code Geass episode.
Really?
It was everything that you would get from the series, just condensed down, all of the absurdity, all of the action, the drama, and even like the stupid stuff, the stupid parentheses positive stuff that you would get.
Stupid, just good.
Compressed into 2 hours. It was very fun. Is it
That's exciting.
necessary? No, absolutely not. But it was great. I was happy to see that as a cherry on top.
Oh, I'm thrilled. I'm very excited. I really like doing the anime club stuff because some of the shows I've seen before and I just want to share my favorites, Yeah. Some of them I haven't seen, or maybe I didn't finish going into it. I never watched the last season of like Zero no Tsukaima before we watched all of it in Anime Club. I never watched I'm thinking, let's see. I stopped during like season 1 of Full Metal Panic maybe 3 times, but now I've seen all of it. We all watched it together. Quite nice.
Are there any
so I think
that have worked their way into your upper echelons that you saw for the first time in Anime Club?
Ooh. I liked Full Metal Panic a lot. I'll tell you what, I liked it a lot. There aren't too many so far that I haven't seen. I ended up really liking Samurai Flamenco. I don't know if you're familiar with Samurai Flamenco.
Haven't seen all of it. I'm familiar with it.
Oh, so you've only seen half of the genre shifts. that show changes genre like 6 times. We came back every week and we were like, what's going on? Is it aliens? Is it Sentai? Is it mecha? Is it horror?
Aliens? Well, no, it's not a Trigger show. It
Is
can't
it
be
Haruhi?
aliens.
So true. But there's a lot more set for next year that I haven't seen. I think the only show remaining this year that I haven't watched at least part of is Guilty Crown, which I've heard is a disaster.
Guilty
so I'm
Crown
very
wanted
excited.
to be Code Geass.
No shot.
The way that I first heard about Guilty Crown, funny enough, was the day that I realized that Code Geass was my favorite series, because someone posed to me the question, what is your favorite series? And I paused, and the person said, don't think, just say it. And I said Code Geass, and I realized afterwards, like, yeah, I guess it is my favorite series. And the next thing they said was, okay, you should try Guilty Crown. It was newer at the time, and that the parallels, especially in like the first 2 episodes, are very apparent.
Oh no.
And then it goes, it is not Code Geass. It goes off the rails from most of the things that were parallels in the early episodes. And that's a lovable mess right there, actually.
I had a friend who watched it airing. He used to joke, I dropped it every week. You know, I'm thrilled. There are a lot more shows coming next year that I haven't seen that I'm excited about. We're watching like Black Lagoon, and I want to put Darker Than Black in there at some point. I never saw Steins Gate Zero, so I'm excited for that. You know, there's
I saw like 3 episodes of
stuff.
Steins Gate Zero and just didn't get around to finishing it. The original Steins Gate is forever a classic, and
It's incredible.
like,
I'm looking forward to that. That's this year. That's October, November. I forget. But
That's
there's a lot
another
of
one that I
good scenes
say
that I haven't
watch
seen
the
that
dub.
either. Really?
yes, the dub of Steins Gate is an all-timer in my opinion.
Seen some
And-
scenes that are quite good, quite funny, but I'm so attached to the the way I consumed it, I think.
Very fair. And you want to talk about Labors of Love? That show was J. Michael Tatum's magnum opus.
Oh yeah,
his
the guy
child.
he voiced Okabe and he scripted
that
it, right? He
was
did the script.
Okabe, he did the script adaptation, and he was the ADR director.
Oh my
And
god.
His being cast as Okabe was not nepotism. It was the unquestionably correct casting choice. There was nobody but him who would be able to do that role as well. Not in the English language.
enough.
It was very, very, very good. That was such a labor of love show, especially at the time, because it's off the wall, and especially for when it was released, because it was in that sort of middle ground time, like 2012, 13-ish, where we weren't quite watching seasonal shows in the West very much, because streaming was still getting set up. So for something to not be a rom-com or a shonen meant that you were already working at a
Oh,
disadvantage.
you're digging kind of deep, sure.
And
I've been
and
watching
it was really good.
airing anime since I was like 15, I guess. Whenever Zetsubo Sensei came out, season 1. So I've been down in the mines for a long time, and it makes me happy because a lot of Goshijins were the same way. There's some who like maybe didn't get hardcore into it until like they were older, but there's some like me who've been like digging around watching shit broken up in 3 parts forever.
Oh,
And
gosh,
it's
the 3-part
nice.
YouTube videos. That's how you know someone has been around for at least a little bit.
Are you calling me old?
No, if I'm calling you
Well,
old, I'm calling myself
oh.
old. Yeah,
Oh shit. Good answer. No, it's true. It might just be nostalgia, but I have such a soft spot for that era, you know. A lot of the shows that I've shown in Anime Club are from like, I mean, they've got the dates listed on them. What are we looking at? 2008, 2013, 2006, 2011. You know, that sort of era. I think it's just fantastic.
Do you remember what the first show you watched as it was airing was?
It was either Zetsubo Sensei or it was Haruka no Gizaka, which I don't think anyone but me and like one Goshijin watched. It was just some dumb.
I'll admit I don't know that one.
It wasn't great. It was just some light novel adaptation about a girl who's like a very polite rich girl school idol, but she's secretly an otaku, and it changed my brain chemistry quite a lot, as you can imagine.
I can see it now.
I wouldn't tell someone to go back and watch it, but the openings were very good.
That was the other thing I wanted to say about Guilty Crown. All-timer opening. Amazing opening.
How could it be bad? They got Red Juice on art. They got Supercell on music. Surely it's going to be a good series. That's what everyone says.
It was a great opening. Great opening.
I do like the Guilty Crown opening. I'm excited. People are getting angry at me for saying how we're going to spend December.
It's not a terrible series. I definitely see it as, like I said, that lovable mess. It's a lovable mess.
That's the best kind. The worst shows have the best openings. That's so true, bro. That's so true.
At the very least, it is more likely to have a bad show with an amazing opening than a great show with a terrible opening, for sure. Yes.
Absolutely. Oh, God. Do you have any particular anime that you love besides Geass?
I definitely have plenty, and I'm actually sort of scrolling through your anime list right now. Just, all right, what are ones that we've seen plenty in common? I guess
oh, really?
One of my other all-time favorites that I feel is woefully underrated, but I do see on your list, thankfully, is Baccano.
Oh, God bless.
I will go out of my way to sing the praises of Baccano and tell people to watch those 16 episodes any way they can. There is,
Baccano
at time of broadcast, no legal licensing for that series. And yes, you are correct, Cronus, you watch the dub because it is a masterclass.
You must. It's very important.
The other thing I tell people is to watch episode 1 through 16 within a week.
Really?
It does not need to be one sitting. It doesn't need to necessarily be, okay, watch one on the first day
you can't
and the
put
last
it
episode.
down and then pick it up
You can't put it
months
down
later.
because this is not a spoiler. It's a non-linear story. It's a non-linear story, and because of how it is presented, if you take too long between one episode and the last episode,
you'll lose track of how the timeline was.
There's
Exactly.
too many details that will be forgotten, and it will impact your ability to enjoy the series.
Absolutely. Baccano's another one I want to put on the anime club list. It's funny. It's been tough. I thought we used to do it once a week, and I was like, oh, but I want to show you this. I want to show you that. And I was like, well, what do you guys think if we did it? What do you think if we did it twice a week? They were like, yeah, we can make that work. Takako, no problem. And now we've slammed through how many shows in 1 year, and I'm still like, I know it's not feasible, but I wish we could just do a third. There's so much. I got the calendar planned out through 2025, and there's still stuff like, oh, I didn't put Penguin Drum on there. Oh, I didn't put Baccano in there. Darker Than Black isn't in there. It's like, there's so much good shit. There's so much good stuff to watch, you know?
Do you have a underrated gem, one that you feel is genuinely good? Not a so bad it's good or a lovable mess, but one that you think is just really good that not enough people know about?
We talked about it briefly, and you had said that you'd seen a few episodes and kind of put it down. But Oregairu, absolutely. I know a lot of people who put it down after like a few episodes or the first season, but I think it kind of blossoms into something really, really beautiful that you wouldn't expect. The series is a lot more like self-aware and mature than you would expect going into it. It kind of leads you into thinking that it's one thing, and then you realize the story is kind of on your side. It's got its hand on your shoulder, and it's like, you seeing this shit?
For those who don't know, what's the synopsis elevator pitch for the series?
Sure, it is. I mean, it's just a light novel romance comedy anime adaptation. The protagonist is kind of snarky and unpopular and very pessimistic, and he has to help out in like a school club where they help people with their problems. He's joined by like a girl who's kind of the school idol, but she's very cold. She's kind of an ice queen. She does everything perfectly, and a ditzy, very friendly girl who's nice to everyone but not very smart. But it really treats all of them like they're real people. It treats even the side characters like they're real people. They have their own stuff going on. They deserve to be treated with respect. It's really, really, really awesome. I like series where they take archetype characters like the jock or whatever, and and they kind of focus on them, and they're like, "Oh, you have a lot on your plate. Everyone's relying on you for everything. That must be really hard." You know, I'm a big Breakfast Club fan. I used to joke with my friend that Breakfast Club is just an anime. But, you know, I think Origairu does that really fantastically. Also, someone in chat said Shiki. Shiki's the best horror anime there is. IMO. It's incredible.
I've not seen Shiki. I'm familiar with Shiki on a very, very surface level. I know I believe it's vampires.
It is.
That's about all I know.
That's all you need to know going into it. It is excellent. Very small rural town, everyone knows everyone kind of setup, which I'm always a big fan of in horror or in anything really. And things just escalate with Shiki. they just go further and further at an increasingly rapid pace. It's very good. It's a slow burn, but one that's worth going through. I'd say we're watching it around Halloween this year.
Ooh, okay, very good, very good.
Quite exciting, but I'd say either Shiki or Origairu, yeah.
Shiki's only 22 episodes, so very manageable.
Not bad.
Now, one series that once upon a time was not niche. It was the big thing, but that perhaps nowadays has somewhat. It's not even fallen into disfavor. It's just that it has become
it's died out
the recognized name of a classic that I think that kids these days haven't seen Haruhi Suzumiya, and they're worse for it.
Can I give you my problematic Haruhi take?
Please.
I think the first season of Haruhi is a masterpiece. I think it's actually a 10 out of 10. I think there's nothing that can be improved upon it.
I
think
agree.
It's so good.
No objections. No objections at all. That
we have an unpopular opinion about Haruhi in common, actually, that I think you might be getting at.
And that's the thing of just, while I will certainly say that season 2 of Haruhi was a step down from season 1.
I would agree.
That I think that is more so a function of, like you said, season 1 being immaculate.
Yes.
Just, holy cow, it doesn't matter if you watch it in chronological order or broadcast order. And yes, I did say 2 different orders, folks, because they aired that series out of order intentionally.
When I first watched it, I watched it chronologically. And then when we watched it in Anime Club, we watched it in broadcast order. It was like, oh, we're here now. Oh, now we're here. But it works. It works because it's Haruhi.
Both ways work, and it doesn't matter that I honestly don't know if I would suggest to someone having their first experience be out of order or in order. I think I would say out of order.
Broadcast order, you mean?
I would say broadcast order would be the first time experience that would be optimal, because there are reveals and revelations that you just get because the information you initially have is incomplete, and seeing, oh, that's how that happened, that's when that happened, and that it's perfectly enjoyable without that reveal. But I think there's a certain delight in being able to connect the dots.
It's just it's like chronological order is certainly like, oh, this is how it happened, but I think broadcast order is much better in being a good story. I think it's much more like conscious about when the reveals happen, and I think it kind of almost directly tells you, this doesn't matter, don't worry about this until later, here's what you should be focusing on.
That any good non-chronological series will never give you something that you are not able to understand that you're supposed to understand if it's done right.
There's a film series someone in chat mentioned that I also really like, called Kara no Kyokai, that does something similar. Every movie for Kara no Kyokai, maybe not all of them, I forget exactly what the order is, but that's a non-chronological series. And a lot of people watched one episode and dropped it because they had no idea what was going on, The first movie's a little rough. It's beautiful. It's way too beautiful for when it came out. It's unreal, actually, what Ufotable was able to do with that series. But you are sort of just dropped into it. You're not really... Nothing is explained to you. Things just happen in front of you, and it's kind of up to you to figure things out. They might say, like, what year things are taking place, but unless you're writing it down, you're not going to remember, what all... When everything is happening. But there will be events, like, I think someone gives her a jacket, and then in a later movie you'll see it hanging up. So you're like, oh, she already has that. So this has already happened. Things like that. The characters will be drawn older, but it's very subtle. So you can't always tell just by looking. It's wonderful. I love Karu no Kyokai, and I hear the light novel is just in order. I hear they did. Oh no, sorry. The light novel is out of order. There is a movie in that series, my favorite, everyone's favorite. That is, it's one of the weirdest movies I've ever seen. A lot of thematic focus in that movie is put on like balance, two halves to the same coin kind of stuff, and the movie is split into two, where one half of the movie is following this character and the other half is following this character, and only if they're put together do they make like a complete story. It's an absolute masterclass. Really like it. Really love it. Would recommend it to anyone.
And that for the kids who might not be as familiar with Haruhi Suzumiya beyond the name, because like I said, I think the name has endured, but that just
it's not something that people pick up and watch now.
Yeah. That one, absolutely watch it. It's still available. It's on Crunchyroll, was on Funimation previously. That it has been perpetually licensed, and it is still. I think it still gets a good amount of attention, just not as much as I think it deserves, perhaps. And part of this is also because during the years when it had first aired, it was everywhere.
It was everywhere. It was everywhere.
That it was the show, even in the West, that apart from shonen and rom-com, again, that it really was a breakout series. And
it's nice because I feel like it spread very organically too.
Yes, it was a friend
promoted as
friends.
It should have been by whoever licensed it at the time, but a lot of it was like you just started seeing everyone in these forums with Haruhi icons and signatures, and you're like, oh, what is that? Or the AMVs would start pouring into your YouTube recommendations.
Like, and people doing dances at anime cons. And,
It was perfect. It's a perfect storm.
And without doing spoilers again, because this is a spoiler series, there's a lot of stuff.
Of course. Right.
Haruhi Suzumiya is a girl who wants life to be interesting. She does not like normal, everyday things. And she just wants things to be different and fun and exciting. And Furudehan in the chat mentions that the light novel series is not out of chronological order. And yet, the fact that they did it in the anime feels so natural. It
feels so right.
It feels right. The fact that it is in order in the light novels almost surprised me, and it's actually the only light novel series I've gone out of my way to read.
Really?
Because they adapted, between the 2 seasons and 1 movie, literally 5 of the 10 books.
That's crazy.
And that, for a variety of reasons, some of which we don't really have full confirmation on and probably never will, it never got finished. I am holding out hope that maybe someday they will. I mean, look, we're getting the full reboot of Spice and Wolf. We got it for Fruits Basket and others, so maybe someday. Because I feel like Kyoto Animation has to have this box somewhere. It's a glass box with a hammer next to it that says, in case of emergency, make Haruhi Season 3. Because they have to know it will print money. It's still popular enough that people know, and people have been clamoring for it. Every time they make even the slightest hint or tease of Haruhi content of any sort, people are praying that it will be Season 3, and it has never been that. Every time they announce
a Haruhi-related project, I quote tweet it and I joke, "Oh, good, another pachinko machine."
Yep.
So they keep edging us. They keep teasing us, saying, "Hey, you remember this? You want this?"
They have to know. Part of me legitimately believes it is their silver bullet of, if they have a bad year or just a couple of series that just flop and that the studio is in a bad place financially, that they know at any time they can make Haruhi, and they will be able to make their annual budget at minimum.
You've heard
and
it
that
here,
it's just
folks.
there.
Stop buying Kyoani Blu-rays.
Yeah,
Stop supporting
how do we get
Make them
Wait,
desperate.
No, not like that.
I recently visited Japan back in March, and when I went to Kyoto for a bit, I stopped by the Kyoani store, actually. and I was so exciting. I got to see the euphonium in person. I got to buy some exclusive merchandise. It was quite nice. It wasn't like a full museum or anything, but it felt really like really cool. Felt really important, you know.
I
nice
adore
experience.
Sound Euphonium. I was a band kid.
Did you like Whiplash?
Oh, you let me. I have had
Oh,
a problem
brother.
this season. So, Sound Euphonium, for folks who aren't familiar, it's band class the anime. If you
I only watched one season. I adored it. I haven't seen the second one yet.
second season's amazing.
Is it?
Second season's amazing. They had a movie that bridges the second and third season. It is
Liz and the
required.
Bluebird, right? Or is
No.
it one of the euphonium movies?
There's a Euphonium movie. There is Liz and
Okay.
Bluebird, which is, for all intents and purposes, a side
is it
story.
like a spin-off? Okay.
It's
Kind of.
same continuity, same world, same characters. It's a couple of the background characters and their story,
Okay.
which
All
is
right. I see.
completely irrelevant to the main plot. It is not required watching for Sound Euphonium, but if
Okay.
you want to see a well-done story of two other characters in that world, it's a delightful movie.
Excited. Maybe I should just go back into euphonium. Euphonium's one of my favorites. Reina especially is a character that I love a lot. When I went to the Kiwani store, I bought a button of Kumiko and Reina sitting back to back, by the way.
Yes.
Very nice.
The problem I've had with season 3, it's hitting too close to home.
Oh, are you crying? Are you crying every week?
Like not even crying, but just I was deeply involved in
You were a band kid?
in high school and in college.
I was never a
And
band
there-
kid, but I was a try-hard gifted kid who wanted to be the best she possibly could at her hobbies, so it's still...
There's plenty of things that can get that feeling. I do think that you can still absolutely resonate with that with Sound Euphonium, no question. But for me, not only of just in the last season, this is a small spoiler, but I don't think it is a significant one.
Okay.
That
I'll trust your judgment.
I will say one of the characters is now the president of the band club.
Okay.
And so
Was that you?
was
Was that responsibility put onto you?
I was
Oh, no.
in charge of an orchestra, and that there are things that, you know, as a leader of a large student group, that different trials and tribulations that happen. And in the first 2 episodes, oh, Rat, welcome on in.
Oh, Beba.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, because I saw your schedule, because you're doing something with Rat later this week, I think. aren't you?
We're finishing up Portal 2 co-op
Ooh,
later
have
this week.
fun. Yes.
I'm excited. What were you up to, Bobeba?
Yes, hello.
I can't make sense of that
Welcome on
raid
in.
message, so I can't
Max
tell.
Kern, K,
Yeah, exactly.
Rat, please do it. If there's something to explain, you can explain, but if not, but also welcome in, Raiders. Hi, I'm Jay. This is Vtuber Talk, and I'm talking with Takako Takamura. And Takako, if you could introduce yourself to the fine folks.
Of course, my name is Takamura Takako. I'm an otaku maid. I run the White Rose Cafe. Today I am on VTuber Talk. We've been talking about anime for quite a while. Talked about Code Geass, talked about Haruhi. We're talking about Euphonium right now.
Yes. Welcome on in, folks. Rat, I hope you had a good stream. Please do take care of yourself. Get some food, get some water, get some rest.
Don't tell me your opinions
I will
on Sword
ask
Art Online.
about that later. And the thing is, we've had a lot of similar opinions, so I'm actually very curious about that. But to wrap up Sound Euphonium, basically, I was a student leader in a band, and seeing some of the things play out, it's
As they
hitting
do.
too hard. It was too real, and it was bringing
Oh,
up some
no.
stressful memories. And the fact that it was doing that is a testament to its success. It is very good.
It's
and
incredible. It's an
it
incredible
is as good
show.
as it ever was, and I just was not in the right headspace at that time to watch that.
Oh, you had to put it down? It was too
so
much?
I had to put it down.
That's how it was. Oh,
like,
man. I don't know if you've seen
I've-
Chihaya Furu.
I've seen parts of it. I've not seen all of it.
I adore Chihaya Furu, the Karuta show. Very, very good. I got about halfway through season 2 and I was crying like every ep. I was like, I can't do this right now. I gotta put this down and pick it up again later.
Yeah, that I'm going
It's
to be
too
picking
much.
up season 3 of Sound Euphonium soon, probably, because I loved it so much. That's one that, like, I'm not going to let it sit and not be finished.
Oh, wait,
What?
season 2 of what?
Or season 3 rather. But that I
Oh.
need to.
You need to.
I now know that I need to be in the
You
right
have to
headspace
look out
to
over the
really
cliff and
enjoy
process
that.
some things.
Yeah, and just be like, it's not even that I have to process it because I've processed that. I've been through that. It's fine, but it was like, I'm not going to enjoy this series as much as I want to, and as much as
Sure.
it deserves, if I'm not in the right headspace to be thinking about some admittedly stressful things.
Sure, it makes sense. It's a very, I'd say, surprisingly heavy show. It's a very effective drama,
Yes.
euphonium, and I think you have to be like, I can see it being like something that hits wrong if you're like not ready to kind of embrace what it's willing to show you, I suppose.
But yeah, so I definitely recommend going back and getting a very good series.
Mm.
But now I am curious because Rat mentioned, don't tell me your opinions on Sword Art Online.
Well, it's definitely not me changing the subject, but it is something you would ask me, oh, do you have any like hobbies that don't generally get brought up or anything? And it is euphonium related. One thing that I like to do, I have visited Japan 3 times now, is I do anime pilgrimage photography. So I will look up and find the real life locations of anime, the scenes or like visual novel backgrounds, and I'll go and take photos of them. I wish I had a page on my website for it, but I can send you a few, and I have a few euphonium locations.
Yeah, I was going to say that euphonium is based on real locations, and there's some very iconic ones.
A lot of Kyoani stuff is. A lot of them. There's Fate, there's Umineko. You know? So euphonium is a show that there's a few places I want to go in person. I found the top of the hill where Reina talks to Kumiko at night.
Yeah.
Nighttime climb. I found a few places from euphonium and Hyoka that I want to hit up next time I go. I'm quite excited.
I'm just,
we don't have to talk about Sword Art.
We
don't have to talk about Sword Art.
So let's talk about Sword Art while I upload these pictures to OBS. That we're gonna buy us some time.
God damn it. I read 4.5 volumes of the Sword Art Online light novel, and I thought it was pretty good. It's not a perfect series, but I read it on a friend's recommendation, and we talked earlier about how important passion is. It's very clearly written by someone who really, really, really wants this game to exist, and who has a lot of very strong opinions about things like making real connections with people over the internet, or pouring time into your passions not being a waste of time, being like an extension of like self-exploration. I think Sword Art is a very cool series. I think Kirito is a very good character. That same friend had me sit down and said, okay, we're gonna watch the anime now. I said, okay, I'm very excited. I watched, I think, 4 episodes before I had to get up and start pacing. I was mad. I was furious. I was so pissed off. I was like, it's no wonder everyone hates this show. It sucks so bad. So for a very long time, I've been telling the Goshujins, I will do a PowerPoint. A Sword Art Online isn't that bad. You guys are just mean. A1 Studio is the enemy, not Reki Kawahara. PowerPoint stream. And about once a week, they ask, Takako, have you finished rereading the light novel yet? When's the Sword Art PowerPoint stream? I took photos. I've been rereading the light novel. I've been highlighting important lines that I want to reference. I'm taking it very seriously.
Doing your, full research.
I'm doing actual research on this because I want people to understand how mad I am. In the light novel, I'd go so far as to say what I've read, at least, is not really a harem series. The first arc, which everyone agrees is the best, the Aincrad arc, is that. It's like half of the first season in the anime, I think. It's just 2 books in the light novel.
It's 12 episodes. It is 1 season, quote-unquote, core, but it was aired in tandem with the second. So, it's sort of weird how they lined that up.
The main story of Aincrad is just Kirito and Asuna and it's the main plot. That's the first book. The second book is just side stories, where he like meets the other girl characters and maybe makes connections with them or whatever. But it's very clearly like meant to be more of a romance than a harem, I would say.
Yeah.
I can't claim for like the further books, but I've always compared light novel Kirito to the Ambien guy who keeps posting about how much he loves his wife. Whereas anime Kirito is not like that at all. He's a character with a lot of very real fears, very real PTSD, thoughts that he explores through writing an inner monologue, and none of that gets carried over at all. He just kind of like does cool moves, slices sword, looks cool, wins girls, and it's like that's not the same character. That's not who I fell in love with. I don't know who you are.
As someone who has not read the light novels, you saying that there's significant inner monologues that we don't get in the series.
Oh, he's like actually a person.
Basically, the next question I was going to be asking was, all right, so you're saying that there's obviously a very big difference. What is the difference? And the fact that there's inner monologues means, okay, having seen the series, I can say that he does not have any significant inner monologues, so there's the answer to what we're missing. Everything that's going on in his head. And to be fair,
yes.
From what we get in the anime, and I will say that I've seen the first 3 cores, which is technically the first 2 seasons.
You finished.
That I finished Gun Gale.
Oh, you finished Gun Gale. Okay, yes.
Finished Gun Gale. And that Kirito, past the first arc, I feel doesn't get a lot of development past it, that they address some of the PTSD, and I think that is a very logical and realistic and interesting angle to go about it. I obviously, going through a death game like that and you survived, that's going to impact someone for the rest of their life. No question.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I kind of appreciate the fact that they did that. And I was sad that between that and other things, I don't think they really capitalized on what could be an interesting character and the knowledge that certainly there's so much of any individual's complexity that is not necessarily spoken aloud, that is conveyed in their everyday behavior that you can't necessarily get in a compressed show, because you don't see his everyday life. You see the important moments, which are usually combat-based. And if you're not getting an inner monologue as part of that, you're going to be underselling the character. So that knowledge alone is something. And I guess all of this is to sort of bury the lead on my own opinion on Sword Art, which is, I think, probably not an uncommon one at this point in time of Season 1 was solid, or should I say Arc 1 was solid, ARKHAND was solid, and that it took a relative nosedive after that. Maybe it gets better after Gun Gale, but it was... Well... I did not like the fairy one, and everything that I didn't like about the fairy dance.
I didn't like fairy dance. Local SAO apologist didn't like fairy dance.
And that Gun Gale was fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, and that was where I dropped the series.
Sure, fair enough.
So I can't speak to what it's done since. I've heard that apparently Gun Gale Alternate was really good. Haven't watched it. I
haven't read or watched it,
but it's just not one that I can say that I'm eager to suggest to people.
Are you familiar with Kino's journey at all?
Yes.
So Gun Gale Alternative has the writer and artist of Kino's journey. So that might be a plus for you. I'm a big Kino fan. I also haven't read or watched Gun Gale Alternative. I want to like at least explicitly say it's still like a teen-aimed light novel. It's not kinography. It's not the best thing, but there is like I think a lot of heart to it that gets kind of washed away. I talked about it on stream not that long ago, but there's little stuff that I wish they had properly adapted, you know? There's a scene that I had read a lot of complaints I find about it. There are some very legitimate complaints you can make about Sword Art, and I think people aim for like the low-hanging fruit instead that don't always check out. I know, God, I had watched a video a long time ago that had a ton of views that was like, if everything outside of the town is dangerous, why don't they simply, like, keep everyone where it's safe in the town and then just organize people who are willing to fight to go out? And I was like, but that's what they do. That's exactly what they do. What do you mean? I know there's a scene where, a lot of people are like, well, you just survived a death game. Why would you go back in? Is he stupid? Is he dumb? But the government is, like, asking him
and it was also to save someone he loved.
Exactly.
That the big thing, and you mentioned that the first arc of Sword Art doesn't feel like a harem, and I think that's to its benefit. That I think the story and development of Kirito and Asuna is literally and figuratively the heart of the ARKHAND arc, and why I think that it resonates better than what ultimately becomes just another harem series.
I think it's very unique in how equal the writer has forced these characters to be. You know what I mean? They're very much that two halves of a whole kind of match, and it's really nice to read about them. There was a prequel that I liked a lot that was focused on just Asuna, which is obviously a character that gets written off as waifu bait a lot. But she, I think she's very cool. She's never played a video game before she gets trapped in here. She's an honor student. She just tries on her brother's VR headset, and now she's stuck there. And her biggest concern is, I have a test on Wednesday, I can't afford to be here. So I guess I'll just not sleep and grind nonstop until I can get out. She's very cool. She's very mad. She has a lot of, like, issues. I love her.
One of the biggest complaints that I know many others have is that in Fairy Dance, Asuna was reduced to a literal damsel in distress.
Of
course.
course.
You had this amazing badass character.
I felt the same way.
Spent the first, however many books, episodes developing, and
no, she is she's something
what is
achieved.
Like
literally an
half
object.
step away from tentacle hentai.
I don't know. Like I said, there's plenty to actually criticize it, but I think there's enough that is special about it that I'm willing to full on research.
It certainly galvanized a genre.
It did.
There's no question that in the wake of Sword Art Online, we cannot necessarily say definitively, it was a direct influence, but after Sword Art, we saw
I think so.
Maybe
not as severe as Madoka, but
yeah,
But
it helped kick off the modern isekai genre as we know it, and gave rise to an entire subgenre of just video game series. And was it the first video game series? Was it the first isekai? Goodness no.
Not.
But I think the uptick in its wake is tangible.
No, I'd agree.
And if nothing else, I recognize its historical significance and its enduring popularity, even if I'm not necessarily one of the folks who is a huge fan. But it's significant, and ultimately, I'm glad that it exists. Certainly,
I think I had said this to you in the pre-interview, but I don't know if it's just that I'm an adult now. My general take tends to be, if something is really popular, there's probably something good about it.
Yeah.
I'm willing to say, I tried it out. This isn't really my thing. I watched, like, the first season of Demon Slayer. I saw the movie. I thought it was good. I probably won't continue it. It's not really my kind of thing. But I enjoyed it. I watched a bunch of Jujutsu Kaisen. I was like, this is pretty fun. The animation's pretty, like, fantastic in some scenes. I don't think SAO is, like, nearly as good or bad as people say. I think anytime something gets really popular, people tend to look at the volume of attention it's gotten and sort of look at it with, like, a black or white kind of mindset.
Yeah.
And I think generally most media can't be watered down to such a degree. I think there's plenty to like about X. There's plenty of things to dislike about X.
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't know. I think media literacy is something that's very important that we should hold on to also, as strong as we can.
Also, media criticism and analysis, because there's ways to analyze and things that, going back to even just lovable messes, that it is entirely possible for something to be either technically or conventionally poorly done, but for it to still be a successful and enjoyable piece of media. That
Exactly.
there's so many things that by conventional standards are not good, even if we're not talking about like quote unquote quality, but that are just offbeat.
Well, you had commented during the pre-interview, you were like, oh, I'm looking at your anime list. I have to ask you what some of your favorites are because you don't have your scores public on here, actually. That was a choice that I made because I think, like, if I were to rate something, it would be on personal enjoyment. And I think someone could look at that and be like, why the hell did you give High School of the Dead a 10? Are you crazy? Are you like, stupid? I don't think High School of the Dead is, like, a perfect... I don't think it's, like, a masterpiece. I think it did exactly what it set out to do. I think it looks great. The action in it looks great. I think it's super fun. I think the ecchi is, like, pretty high quality in a time when you had like 20 seasonal ecchi animes and all of them were half-assed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's a blast to watch with friends. I think it's super fun. So yeah, I'd rate it real high.
That's absolutely one of those series where, watch it with friends. And
Madhouse didn't have to go that hard, but they chose to.
Incredibly ecchi show, and that if you do not enjoy ecchi, you should probably not watch High School of the Dead because it will be significant.
Yeah.
But at the same
That's what's
time,
so important. It's like I can look at something and say,
it
this
knows
isn't
what it
for
wants
me.
to be.
This is not the kind of thing that like maybe I want to watch, but I can see someone going crazy over it. And I think it's so interesting to hear them talk about what they like, you know?
Oh, yeah. And a big thing for me is just, like I said, is a series, is a movie, a piece of media, is it being what it wants to be?
Yes.
Is it doing what it sets out to do? And
exactly.
That High School of the Dead knows exactly what it wants to be, and it is
boy,
exactly
does it.
that.
And it does it
and
perfectly.
it's having the
it does
time
it
of its
flawlessly.
life.
Exactly. I think it's very important to be able to judge a piece of media either objectively or personally. I think it's important to do both, you know? There's a lot of things, a lot of movies specifically I like that are slow burn or really abstract, and I would never tell someone, hey, you should sit down and watch this. It's something I love because I think it might be something that like a lot of people it wouldn't jive with them, like they don't have the patience, or Shiki is like that. I tried to watch Shiki like 2 or 3 times when I was younger. I got like 2 episodes in, was like, this is boring. And then I watched it years later. I was like, this is the best thing I've ever seen. You know? Yeah.
And that sometimes you either need to be in the right mindset or in the right environment. And sometimes this is something that you should watch with friends. That the Rocky Horror Picture Show is not a movie you should ever watch alone. It is... You are going to have a terrible time. Watching on your own. It's just going to be boring.
That's a group experience.
And it's not even a so bad it's good film if you are watching it alone. It is just... it's not even a awful film on its own. It's just a terribly mundane film on its own. But if it's with friends, or ideally as it should be,
and it's an experience,
in a theater
and it's an event
with people acting and throwing things at the screen and screaming at the top of their lungs responses to the lines in the film, it is one of the most fun and unique experiences that you will ever have with a piece of media.
No, that's why I wanted to start the anime club. It wasn't just like, oh, I like anime. I want people to watch the anime that I like. I think watching things in a group, it makes sure that you're still watching anime, because it's so easy to stop. It's so easy to get caught up by life and just be like, I haven't watched anything in like a year now. It's something where I'm like, we're sitting down, we're watching Code Geass, and every Thursday, you know, people will show up and they'll chill. It's very nice, but also it's I think things are enhanced. I think something should be watched alone, something should be watched in a group. There's Kaiji is hype no matter what. Kaiji is just a fantastic show. But, I mean, there's a bit in season 2. I think the Kaiji says, like, sit back down. It's a whatever line. It's not, like, an impactful line. But because of the context of the scene, we're all screaming. We're smashing our keyboards. We're like, yo! You know? And it's so fun to, like, get caught up in that that group party atmosphere of something like an anime club, you know?
Definitely. Also, there's been a couple follows. Thank you to Obero Asano, Monday's Child, Van Garden, Faparks, Thunder Nugget the Terrible. That's a great name. The Archivist Twig, and Pop Flop Pop. Thank you for the follows. Welcome on in. And that bought me more than enough time to get some of the pictures that you sent me in here.
Oh!
So starting with actually the last one that you sent me, I believe you said this one was from Fate.
Yes. Oh, no, that one's Umineko. The other two are
Umineko.
Fate. So Umineko is a murder mystery that takes place on an island with a rich family. A lot happens. I couldn't possibly summarize it. I also only read 3 of the 8 novels. Don't tell anyone. I keep telling the Goshujins I will read Umineko. And then
One to add to the anime club list.
No, no. Oh, I watched most of the anime, but it's it's not very good. So we will not be watching Umineko. But I did manage to go to the guest house mansion in person. It was quite exciting. It takes place. There's a rose garden outside of it, and there is indeed the real Rokkenjima mansion is in a place called Q Furukawa Gardens. There's a huge rose garden in front of it, and extended there's like a big like Japanese plant garden. There's a lot of like maple trees. There's quite a lot of like lakes and stuff. It's a beautiful place. But it was really neat to see like the roses around and I didn't get to go inside because I had gotten there a little too late, but there's an actual tea room inside that you can drink like rose tea there. They sold rose ice cream outside. It was an incredible experience. It's so neat.
It's such a cool thing when media takes place in real locations, and then that location becomes just a mecca of a sort that people will take pilgrimages there, that they will go there, and that, again, business nerd me thing, just like local tourism. That's so cool that they have this, because I assume that most of the people in this picture are there because of Umineko.
So with Umineko, I'm not entirely sure. This is actually just a tourist spot. I'm sure a lot of them are. Higurashi, the other large series by that author, takes place in God, it's so hard to even get. It's just a remote village. The population is extremely small. To get there, if I'm remembering right, you have to take a train and then get off and go to a bus stop, a bus that only comes twice a day, and then ride that bus and then walk like a mile or two, and then you get to the village. It's like very difficult to even get to. That's somewhere I really want to go. But that's a place that like the tourism directly because of Higurashi is something worth looking into. It's crazy. So they feature it a lot all over. That's just somewhere no one would go. No one would bother going if it wasn't for this, you know?
One thing that I find sort of interesting is that obviously Higurashi is a very, very famous series, and that I'm completely unsurprised to hear that there's a lot of people going there. The fact that it is still such a hassle, though, is interesting to me.
Yeah.
Because
I don't know if it's just the area that it's in, or...
But I would think that if the village wanted, that they could have an additional bus and still probably have it filled. That I wonder if there is an extent of them willfully not making it easier for people to come to their village so it doesn't get overrun.
It's fine. I know tourism in general in Japan, especially post-COVID, post-lockdown, has been pretty aggressive. And part of that is because they closed off the country for a few years and now it's open again. And part of that is the yen is so damn cheap.
Oh,
the yen
USD right
now. The economy
now,
is in shambles.
And also just anime really exploded over COVID.
Yeah. Japan is a place that, and I'm not Japanese, so it feels weird to talk about, but it is somewhere that I've traveled a few times. No one will really like approach you or say anything, but you do have to be super mindful of like the culture there and like picking up on that, not having to be told that, whether it's stuff like you're supposed to stand on the right of the escalator. If you stand on the left, you're blocking people, you're being like a nuisance. It's stuff like that, where it's like, you just kind of have to keep to yourself. And it's not to say that like, it's not a friendly place, or it's not somewhere you can like go around and have a good time, you know. But I think especially with somewhere like a remote village, I have to hope that every tourist is mindful, but that's not the case. I know I went to a ryokan at a place called Fujikawaguchiko, which is like sort of near Mount Fuji, but it's also not very populated. And I think there's like a street, they just put up a huge gate to block the view of Mount Fuji because too many tourists were like taking pictures in just that one spot and were like causing an inconvenience to, I think it's the 7-Eleven across the street. Huh. There's areas in Kyoto where tourists are now banned because they're just not supposed to. Either it's a residential area or it's like a geisha thing and people are following them around taking pictures. It's nuts, and that's going to happen no matter what because of how many people are kind of heading over. There's going to be, if you increase the number in the batch, there's a higher chance you'll get bad apples. You know what I mean? It's unfortunate.
My exact opinion of communities and fandoms in general is just,
that's just natural.
Statistically speaking, the bigger a group of people is, the more likely that you will have someone who is an idiot and or asshole.
Someone is going to ruin it for the whole class and make you all stay in for recess. I wish that were not the case, but it's just how things are,
Such is apparently a small portion of humanity, unfortunately.
Well, it can't be helped, I suppose. But you said that you were visiting. Oh, yeah.
But, this set of pictures indoors. So where's
this
one?
So, it's a little important, I guess. With a lot of pilgrimage areas, it'll be kind of split up, right? So the church in Fate Stay Night, the outside of the church is one place, and then the inside is an entirely different location, right? A lot of times they don't actually parallel like what you're seeing in series. With Fate Stay Night, the geography of the city in the series is the city split up into like 4 areas. One of them is a residential, more Japanese district, more traditional. One of them is a residential Western district, where a lot of foreigners had come to this area. So there's a lot of Western style houses and stuff like that. There's a huge bridge, and then there's an urban area that was kind of built up without much thought or much personality. A big fire had happened, so they rebuilt all the urban areas really fast, so it looks really like boring and samey and stuff like that. This area is the inside of Rin Tosaka's house. She's a rich girl character with a very traditional mage family, and a lot of the Rin locations are in this like artsy district in Tokyo. I forget where exactly it is. This is called the the name of it is escaping me, but it's inside a Western art museum. This is her living room, and it's neat. The outside of her house is also in that district. It's a totally different building, but it's very Western looking. And it's because it's in this like very hard to walk in, very uphill, Western focused art district. It's really neat. Whereas the other one that I had sent you is the outside of Shiro's house. That's just in a normal area, normal residential, very Japanese area. It's very cool that they've gone to like these different locations to kind of what's it called? Kind of represent like the different feel of the different portions of the city. With Fate specifically, Fate's a series that I adore very much. I think there's so much passion put into it. There's so much thinking went into writing Fate. It's unbelievable, and I'm so happy it's as big and celebrated as it is.
It's one of those series that I've never gotten into, but that I actually think if I were to take the time, I would enjoy it. That I really enjoy the concept of let's take historical figures and repurpose them for things and be creative with them, and just the overarching concept of a magical war over a very powerful artifact is a simple enough premise that has so much potential, and it's very clear that the series has succeeded over the years with all the things that it has, and it is I think it has a stigma just because there's so much of it at this point, and that
Yeah.
the entry points and the different lines of it are unconventional. I'm sure it's not that actually difficult to work with.
But when you do see like Fate, Prismalia, Fate Apocrypha, Fate,
yeah,
Prototype,
at a glance,
you're gonna
it
be
can
like,
be
"Am I supposed to do this
intimidating.
first?" Yeah.
And I'm less intimidated and more of just, that's a lot of it, and I don't.
Yeah.
I feel like if I were to start it, I'd want to finish it. And
course.
just, do I want to dedicate that level of time? And maybe someday, because it's not an absurdly long series. It's not One Piece. I'm never going to watch the
No, no.
entirety of the original release of One Piece. I
Right.
literally and figuratively missed that boat, and I accept that. But for people like me, they're actually releasing a remake of One Piece from the start, which I think is specifically because
Really?
there's so many
Wait, I didn't know
people
that.
Guess what the title is?
They changed. What is it?
The title is, I'm not joking,
Okay.
The One Piece. It is
All right.
Yep. Chronos of the Soul. It's from
Oh
Wit
my
Studio.
God.
So, and I'm pretty sure it is exactly for people like me who don't want to have to go through 1,000+ episodes, but that if you're on the ground floor of a series watching it from episode 1, that one episode a week is very palatable, even if it's going to go
That's
for a
so
while.
funny.
And that they are rebooting it while the original is still airing, which I don't think has
That's
ever happened
crazy.
before.
That's unbelievable to me. That's
But I
very
think it's
weird.
smart because it's going to get me to watch it.
It's smart from a business decision at the very least.
But also,
But One Piece will
it's
always
been
print
so
money.
long that they're going to be able to now do it with modern animating quality and sensibilities, and that it's going to be what is now being released for One Piece is modern quality and sensibilities, but you look back on the first couple episodes and it's
Sure.
night and day, and that
Yeah.
now they're going to start from that, so that's going to also be interesting. But the fact that it's just called The One Piece is,
The One Piece.
I understand from a marketing standpoint that it makes sense to just,
To differentiate, yeah.
or to have it very similar, because
Oh,
there's
sure.
Full Metal Alchemist, Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Some series don't even bother renaming. I'm looking at You Fruits Basket, but there's something about it being The One Piece that just seems particularly
The
silly.
Hellsing. Don't say the Hellsing. Yeah, it's fun. That's something I hear a lot about Fate. I feel like it's kind of sad because when people think of Fate, they either think of the mobile game usually, or they think of like, oh, that's a series that's really hard to get into, right? I've always been of the opinion that like if the alphabet starts at A and you're wondering how to learn the alphabet, you should probably just start at A and end at Z. You know what I mean? But it can be difficult to know, like, well, what is this? What is that? How important is this? I thought about having a page on my website that's just how to get into Fate. I don't know why I haven't done it yet, but
I know there have been many YouTube video essays on that.
Oh, I'm sure. I watched one on stream as a rage bait thing a long time ago. And I kept pausing it and getting angrier and angrier because I was like, it's really not that difficult. But I don't know. What's nice about Fate is that pretty much everything besides Stay Night, almost everything, is just a spin-off. There's no order to it. As long as you're familiar with Fate Stay Night, you can watch whatever interests you.
I feel
Which
like
is
I would
nice.
just watch in release order. That it
Yeah.
was released in that order, and that the original fans fell in love with it being released in that order, so it's clearly watchable. And that I have to believe there's going to be some logic to what is shown when and where. Of, like I said earlier, any non-chronological series that is good is going to make sure that you are never
Covered.
in
You're
the dark
covered.
when you're not
Yeah.
supposed to be.
If I were to make a flowchart, the first question would just be, are you willing to read a visual novel? If the answer is no, it moves on to a box that says please. And if the answer is still no, I can say, all right, you can watch like Unlimited Blade Works first. The the main UFO table adaptation. But it's difficult with Fate, I think, because Fate uses the visual novel medium so effectively. I think it's the best visual novel. You know what I mean? The main character has a lot of very strong opinions. He has a very strong goal about, like, I don't care if being a superhero, being a hero of justice, and saving everybody is impossible. I'm going to do it. He enters a death game and says, well, I'll win so no one else dies, but I won't kill anyone to do it. You know what I mean? He's a very, like, opinionated young man with very, very severe PTSD and survivor's guilt, and I love him a lot. He is my husband. And it's very cool because the first route, the Saber one, pairs him with a girl who thinks exactly like him, who also wanted to save everyone, and that's her goal, is to, like, get the Grail and fix her mistakes, you know? The second route has his ideals kind of challenged, and he comes to his own conclusion. And the third route puts him in a position where it would be impossible to save everyone. You can either save everyone, or you can save one person that matters to you. So it's very neat because every route sort of, like, builds on itself, you know? And I think if you put them together, it makes a really beautiful and well fleshed out story. The difficult part is everyone used to joke about the Dean adaptation way back when, the only Fate Stay Night anime we had. Still haven't seen it, don't tell anyone. But I'm saving it for a rainy day. From what I understand and what I've heard, in this year of 2024, the "oh, it sucks so bad" opinion has sort of changed. They didn't know that they would be that it would get any more anime adaptations. So what they did was they adapted the Saber route, but also kind of tied in weird aspects of the other ones to try to kind of make a complete story.
And then
I don't know.
It was so successful, we're gonna make more after all.
Right. Well, fast forward like 15 years, and UFO Table adapts just the Rin route. And I have my complaints because I'm a nitpicker and I'm obsessed with Fate, but for the most part, it's good. It's real passable. After that, they made a series of movies that I adore for the third route, right? But it's tough because there really isn't like a modern day adaptation of the first route. You would have to either point at that really old anime that people are like kind of torn up about that isn't a proper adaptation, or you just have to say, okay, read this 100-hour visual novel. Who knows? I don't know. So it is a bit difficult, I guess, to get into in that sense. But I think the visual novels is worth reading no matter who you are, and that's why I'm reading the visual novel as an audiobook now. I'm doing streams on Discord, and we're just gonna get through all of it. If people don't want to sit and keep hitting enter and read it, then I'll make it as easy as possible for them to get into it. I'll just read it myself. You know? So I talk a lot about Fate. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no.
I have a lot of
It's a talk
feelings
show
and
and you're
opinions.
talking. This is good. This is fine. However, I do realize that we spiraled so far that we actually never hit on one thing that we were getting to earlier.
Oh?
And that is our opinions of Haruhi, specifically because we said season 1 is immaculate, it's amazing. Season 2 is a step down, but still phenomenal. Season 2 of Haruhi Suzumiya is, for the literal majority, consumed by
that's right.
a very specific art. And I'm gonna have to scroll up. I think it was Furudehan that had mentioned that the light novels were not the same as the book or as the anime. And one way that was expressed was in the non-chronological nature of the first season. The other major divergence of the light novels from the anime is a story called The Endless Eight. And it is a time loop story that they don't want summer to end, so it doesn't. And they need to figure out how to get out of that loop. And in the light novel, they only cover the last iteration of the loop. And the story is some 35 pages.
Okay.
It is done once. The anime took the name literally. 8 episodes.
Oh, it's done twice. Okay. Same. The point still stands.
Yeah,
Even so,
that
yes.
it was not 8 times, but the anime does 8. And it's one thing if you watch them as a marathon, because that's how I initially consumed it. Because I remember it was a summer day, and it was somewhere like, it was around noon. I watched the first episode, and then I watched the second episode. Then I started the third, and I realized what was happening. And I said to myself, I have a choice now. I can either just skip to the last episode or power through this. And I was like, I have nothing to do today. They took the time to animate this, obviously, and that, well, maybe there is some piece along the way that I need to see, and sure, fine, I'll do it. So I powered through.
You don't want to miss anything important.
Yeah. But that after that, over the years, my friends and I would actually get together and we would marathon the Endless 8 at, August, near the end of the summer.
So cool.
And that many people point to the Endless 8 as the reason that Haruhi Season 3 never happened. Because from a broadcast standpoint, it was probably not a good move. Because you think about it from a broadcast standpoint, that's 2 months. That is 2 months that every week the viewers are there, and just, if I was tuning in, I'd probably drop it. Like, maybe I'd marathon it again, maybe, but just, that's not, they did not do themselves any favors, and that the director, after the fact, has even said in, like, interviews and Q&A, was like, yeah, that was probably a mistake. Was that the actual reason we never got Season 3? We will never know. But the Endless 8 is... It is a unique anomaly in media.
Yes.
Not just anime, but time loop stories are not exactly common, but they're a established trope for sure. But the concept of it being 90 to 95% the same, iterated to this point, is not something I've ever seen in another piece of media. And that a lot of people do not like the Endless 8 for that reason. You and I are Endless 8 apologists. I just ranted a fair bit on what the Endless 8 is, so I will let you talk about it first.
No, not at all. I do remember seeing a lot of people being like, oh, Endless 8 made the Blu-ray sales bad, and people stopped liking Haruhi because of it, and that's why we're not getting a Season 3. I think that's a very... like you said, we'll never know for sure, but I think that's a very incorrect assessment. I think a lot of different things were going on at the time, and even Cronus has said, like, it really needs to be a matter of just getting Taniguchi stuck in a room and making him write more. But I think Endless 8 is great. I think if I were to watch it every week, I think maybe I'm just built different, but I feel like I'd have a good time. I think I'd be eagerly awaiting when they get out of it, but it's neat because it wasn't just aired. It wasn't just the same thing that they aired 8 times. All of it is, and you know this, all of it is fully reanimated, fully re-voice acted. They're wearing different outfits.
Different outfits, different camera angles. They didn't even
spend
recycle.
Differing times on different events that they do. It's very cool.
Just slightly different phrasing on lines. Slightly different delivery. There's, a thing that will happen in 6 of the 8 loops, but not in all.
Maybe not the 7th. Yep.
Yeah, the bugs that they catch, the masks that they buy when they go to a festival. Everything is just different enough every time that the artists put in 8 full episodes worth of work.
Exactly. It didn't feel like they had skirted corners or cut costs or anything. I think I'm a visual novel reader, so I don't mind like spending a lot of time on something if I think it's worth it, I can see it not resonating with a lot of people, but I think having to sit through the same events 5 times, A, gives you a lot of empathy for Nagato's situation, and B, it makes the differences stand out so much. Occasionally you'll see Kyon look at Yuki and be like, She looks kind of sad, and the music cuts. You'll get like a really weird vibe, or he'll try to talk to her after they meet up. For some reason, he'll just like be overcome with this urge to be like, "Hey Nagato, are you okay?" I don't know why I said that. Sorry, never mind.
Yeah.
And every time you're like, "Oh, I wish he'd push just a little bit further." You know, I love it. I think it's so good. I think it's so good.
I rarely call pieces of media brave because I feel like
it was so brave.
It's such a loaded term, but in this case, I will call it brave.
It upset enough people that there's no way it couldn't be.
There's a lot of folks who wouldn't do that because, by all conventional logic, it's a dumb choice.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
But that as a piece of art and media, it's fascinating, and that
yes.
I'm so happy that someone actually did the thing of, like you said, it gives the empathy for the characters that are having to live through these loops, because usually when you get a time loop story in media, each loop is very different. And that's, you know, think about ReZero.
Steins perfect. I love ReZero.
The loops are very different because they're doing something radically different, that they are aware of it, so they can do that. And that's cool. That's smart. That they
I feel like that's very suited for like more of an action show or a mystery. You know, something where like you're wanting to make progress. Every time. And that, you know, and I think Haruhi is like the best example, aside from maybe like, I don't know if you've seen Kagero Days, that old Vocaloid PV about a time loop, but I think Haruhi is the best example of the feeling of being trapped in a time loop. You want to get out so bad, and there's no guarantee you're actually going to make any progress. I do think it's a little sad, if anything, because, like you said, Haruhi is not everywhere the way it used to be. You know what I mean? And I think it's a series that's so deserving of its high-level popularity. We can talk about ReZero. I also really like ReZero. But
very good.
I think it's unfortunate, because if you see people talk about Haruhi nowadays, a lot of people will just bring up Endless 8. I almost feel like it's what it's known for now. And I think that's kind of unfortunate, because it's so much more than that.
Yeah.
But it was such a strong gimmick that, like, I get it, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know.
And it is something that, like I said, is just so incredibly unique. And you make a good point of something that I did not actually hit upon when I was explaining, and that's the fact that they don't initially realize that they're in a time loop. That around halfway through each loop, they become aware of it, but have no understanding of why or how they are looping and what needs to be done. That there's no significant clues for them to follow.
It's so cool. Yeah.
Yeah, and that all they can do.
There's that. I love that sense of like hopelessness.
Yeah.
Where it's like, if you were there, like, what do? You don't even know why it's happening. You don't know what you're supposed to do differently. You can't ask Haruhi what's going on. Sure can't do that. You know, there's no one you can really consult. Someone who there's actually someone here who remembers what's going on, and she's lived through it 60,000 times. And what hope do you have?
Don't know.
Yeah, it's great.
But my gosh, when they finally break out, that scene, that music, oh my gosh, tingles every time. Like
it's so hard not to stand up and holler at the screen, man.
The excitement and catharsis just that you get from
you feel like you got out of the loop
is only
it feels
a matter
incredible.
of hours. And if you watched it live, it's 2 months. But just that I think, like you said, because we are forced to endure even a fraction of what the characters do, that it gives that level of excitement and empathy that you don't get from a conventional time loop story.
Yes, I agree. Someone else brought up, Furude brought up Higurashi, which is also a time loop story. And I think Higurashi is also excellent. You know, things go so differently in every loop. It's very, very much like...
They sure do!
Wow! It's certainly not Endless 8-esque, but with Higurashi, you can feel the frustration because you really are starting from scratch every time. You know, it's not like ReZero or Steins Gate, where the main character is armed with, like, more knowledge, necessarily. You know, you really are just trying to scratch your way out, and every time it slips right through your fingers. You were so close this time. Surely if I just do it again, you know?
Yeah. Also,
heartbreaking. Hello, Kenji.
Hello. welcome on in, Raiders. Kenji, thank you so much for the raid. Hi there, everybody. I'm Jay. This is Vtuber Talk, and I am talking with TAKAMURA Takako. And Takako, if you could introduce yourself for the fine folks that just got raided in.
Of course, my name is TAKAMURA Takako. I'm an otaku maid. I'm the owner of the White Rose Cafe. Today I am on VTuber Talk. We're talking about anime. We're talking about Endless 8, actually. You ever heard
Kenji.
Keketsutoya? No, I haven't.
Kenji, thank you so much for raiding. Be sure to take care of
Thank you.
yourself, get some food, get some rest if you need to, and I really do appreciate it. Takako, I'm gonna
Ytuber
take...
Talk? Is that your older brother? Ytuber Talk? I see him mentioned in just trying to give Kenji a hard time, sorry. Anyway, sorry, continue.
I have a tangent based on something that you said in chat a while back that you had not mentioned before. And that comment was, Agatha Christie is my wife.
Yeah.
I just made you laugh so loud that your mic cut out.
I'm sure it did. It's been a long time since I've sat down and read an Agatha Christie book, but I read a lot of them when I was younger, and I love her stuff. I love mystery books.
Have you seen the recent Poirot films with Kenneth Branagh?
No, I need to. Are they good?
They're really good.
Oh shit.
So I'm not someone who grew up with Agatha Christie. That I discovered her stuff later in life, and that I've seen several iterations of Murder on the Orient Express.
Of course.
And it may be a slightly heretical opinion that I think the Kenneth Branagh version is the best one.
Really?
That Kenneth Branagh is at the point in his career where he can literally just say to his buddies in Hollywood, "Hey, I want to do a film, and who wants in?" And that he's going to get an all-star lineup.
I'm not familiar.
So Kenneth Branagh he's done everything from theater, film, all of Shakespeare. One of the more pop culture things, he was what was his name? Defense Against the Dark Arts teacher in Chamber of Secrets. Gilderoy Lockhart.
Oh, okay.
That's what a lot of people might have known him from if you didn't grow up watching.
Interesting.
But that he is a classically trained actor who's very much known for his work in a lot of Shakespeare adaptations. He's very, very good, and that for these Christie films, that he's just assembled like all-star casts of Oscar award-winning actors and actresses to do these things, and that they have done 3 so far. It was Murder on the Orient Express, Death on the Nile, and more recently they did one which is called Haunting in Venice, which is based on Halloween Party. And I have thoroughly enjoyed all 3, and I think that his performances are just stellar.
Can you hear my cat purring, by the way?
A little bit, yes.
She is very happy to be here. No, I gotta watch them then. I rarely hear people talk about. Well, maybe I'm just not in the right like circles. You know what I mean? I was gonna say I rarely hear anyone talk about like Agatha Christie, but then again, I don't particularly like seek out a lot of book related stuff. You know?
I
don't know.
I enjoy the Sherlock Poirot format of give me unrelated mysteries, and that you like that episodic kind of. Yeah, I have adored the 2 Knives Out films that we've gotten. I would be perfectly
I've heard
happy.
Mixed things about them. I've heard a lot of people like them. I've got a friend who like breathes and bleeds mystery. He wasn't quite a fan, but I still have to see them yet.
I'm not necessarily going to call it like the best of all time, but I would be perfectly content to get a Benoit Blanc film every 3 years.
Really?
Just, that very similar to, like I said, Sherlock Holmes and Poirot, that it is just, you have the detective, but everything around him is unrelated, moving on, episodic. And I think Daniel Craig as Benoit Blanc is very, very fun and compelling, and that for as classic as that genre is, we don't really get that type of production very much nowadays.
I'll have to sit down and check it out then. I'm quite excited. This is very high praise. and
Definitely.
something that
That's
sounds like
another
I
one
would
that
be very
let me
interested
know
in.
when you want to watch Murder on the Orient Express. Do that in Discord. I will be there for that one.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good.
Gosh, and I can't believe we looped around so far that we almost left out Haruhi. But that's a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you mentioned, obviously, for Fate, that the visual novel is something that is really required. And I know that visual novels in general are something that you really, really enjoy. Do you recall what the first visual novel you ever played was?
Oh, the first one I played, I had seen I had seen an anime called Chaos Head when it aired, and I liked it a lot because I had nothing to compare it to, even though I could sense that like it was kind of falling apart. There's something like not quite right about it. I heard it was a very bad adaptation of the visual novel, and I did not. Yeah, my popular times are here. I didn't. I've always been kind of bad with technology. It's a miracle I've been VTubing as long as I have, and I did not know what app locale was. I had no idea how to like download a visual novel. So a friend I went to high school with burned Chaos Head patched onto a CD and gave it to me. And I didn't play a whole lot of it, but that was the first VN I properly played. I think the first one I finished was it Two Heart 2? I can't remember. I started a lot, but didn't finish them. But it was Chaos Head then.
Do you have any... If somebody's just looking to get into visual novels, do you have a starting point? Because obviously this is a very broad genre, but it's something that at least in the West, I feel, is not it's not a very big genre.
Never was.
That we've gotten a lot of stuff adapted, localized, and that certainly we're getting more Western visual novels than ever before. That I would certainly argue that the Telltale series, like Telltale's Walking Dead, that's a visual novel. It doesn't necessarily fit the old-timey static character model with dialogue in box visual novel aesthetic, but it's a visual novel.
Sure. I think I would ask like what kind of media they like, to be honest. I think there are so many different kinds. I think if you just want to play like an H game for the H scenes, there's the Ditzy Demons Are in Love with Me. I think that's a great hentai game. If you want like actual plot, I might recommend something like Umineko is a pretty easy entry point, I think, for a lot of people. Something like Tsukihime if you like horror, you know. I think Fate. I was gonna say I think Fate's pretty accessible, but it's too long to be accessible, I think. I don't know. I think if something interests you, you should just go for it. You know, if you've looked into something and it sounds cool, pursue it. The past 2 or so years of mine have been dedicated to finishing a lot of stuff that I started. You know, a lot of my recent streams have been finishing up games that I started when I debuted, like Rabby Reeby, or I haven't played Outlast forever. I'm trying to finish that. It's very hard. I get very scared. But I think we as a society should focus on finishing stuff that we were like, this is really good. It puts it down, doesn't pick it back up again, forgets all about it.
Really good at that, and that I've gotten.
It's so hard,
not
man.
Terrible at it, but I've gotten notably worse at that.
I went back and I watched Gias. I had a great time. I finally finished Eureka 7 like 3 years ago. It was the best experience I've had forever. You know, I think that if there's something that you enjoyed and maybe you gave it a shot or you just never found time, just pursue it. You might get absorbed, you know? I think it's worth it a lot of the time.
Do you have any that you just go back and replay over and over again, even though you've finished it multiple times, similar to rereading a book or replaying a more conventional game? Is there a visual novel that you've found yourself returning to?
I wouldn't say that, because I think there are so many good ones that I always have like something new that I'm excited about reading. The fact that I am willing to open Fate Stay Night back up after 100 hours and go through all of it again is probably a testament enough that I would say that. But I don't know. There's just so many good VNs out there, you know?
Are there any that you're looking forward to that haven't been released yet?
I wouldn't say so. No, I don't think so. There are some that I like that haven't like been translated, so maybe something like that. But even then, they're just like, oh, I I looked at the CG gallery and this girl is really cute. I hope I get to read it someday. There are some that I've been reading in Japanese. It's just been like another studying form, I guess. You can like have a program pull the text as it shows up into a Chrome or a Firefox window, I think, and then you can have an app where like you hover over some of the kanji and it tells you the definition. So it's actually a really good studying tool. I'd recommend it, but the progress on that is obviously very, very slow, you know. But it's good for stuff like just moe-ge or nuki-ge, where it's not like plot heavy or very contrived, you know.
Yeah.
I think it's a good studying practice. Good way to expose yourself to it if you're trying to learn a language.
Folks in chat mentioned a couple that they're looking forward to. Apparently, Tsukihime is getting a remake in 2 days.
I didn't pre-order it. Oh, I'm so ashamed. I feel sick. Oh, I love everything Type Moon puts out. I adore. Tsukihime is also from the Fate guys. I don't know how I feel about the... I'll have to see how good the remake is. Tsukihime is it's a very unhinged game. A lot... I don't know how to put it properly, but there's a lot of, like, point to the H scenes being in there. And knowing that they've remade it, kind of remade, I don't know. Nowadays, there's a lot of anime where they'll say, oh, it's a remake, and then it turns out to actually be a sequel, so I can't say, but... knowing that it's in an all ages form, I gotta wonder if it's like, oh, have they like made up for this? Have they, you know, I'm curious. I gotta read it. Yeah, Tsukahami.
In addition to all of the anime that you've seen and watched, I know that you also have quite an extensive collection of anime merch.
Yeah, indeed I do. I've been collecting figures since I was like 14, I think. I bought my first Lucky Star Figma, and I haven't been able to. I got a Kagami Figma, and I haven't been able to look back since. I have a. I think
I have any Crown Jewels collection, something that either you, whether it's something that's more sentimental that was either early, something that you searched for a while and found, or perhaps something that's just, you know, a very big, expensive, pretty piece that you look at very fondly.
Yeah. I haven't put them up, but I have these towels that I wanted to put up on the wall that are like one-tone matching Garuka and Holmucifer ones. I have a Louise Zero no Tsukaima figure that they only made, I think, like 500 of. It's like a special white version variant, and that was like that was always my grail. And so when I finally got my first job years ago, that's like the first thing I bought with my money.
Yeah.
And it felt like I had really like moved up in life, you know. It was a very sentimental thing. No, not the strawberry one, the other one, but that one too. I really like getting autographs at like conventions and stuff. So some of the autographs in my collection are very cool. I've got the author of Oregairu. I met and he signed my volume 1 of the light novel. I got Rie Kugamiya, voiced like Taiga from Toradora, Louise from Zero. She did like Al in Full Metal Alchemist, I think. I got her signature. I won a lottery at NYC to get it. One of my favorite doujin artists, Ishike, who I've loved for a long, long time, he signed my copy of, I got a physical copy of one of my favorite doujins by him, and I was so excited to get to meet him. It wasn't for me, I got it for a friend, but I have a friend in real life who really, really likes Overlord, and I got like this nice hardcover copy of the Overlord light novel, and I got that signed by the author for him. I went in... I waited in line really early to get an autograph ticket for the artist for Disgaea for a friend whose wife is plein air, so he got to go get that. I don't know, there's cons are so cool.
Yeah.
Being able to like meet people that you've looked up to for years, like it's all so cool, man. It's such a nice like environment. Such a neat opportunity.
And certainly all of the folks that you just mentioned, that those are going to be Japanese creators that are coming to the States, and that is particularly rare. Even now,
so rare.
It's certainly more common than it used to be, but even now, just naturally due to the cost involved with not only the flights are going to be exponentially more expensive, but the hassle of getting a visa, that I've seen cases of conventions conventions having to cancel the appearance of Japanese guests because the State Department didn't process visas in the time that they said they would. That they say, all right, this will be done in 6 to 8 weeks, and they submitted it 12 weeks prior to the event, and 1 week prior to the event, they don't have a visa.
Yep. It's certainly it always feels like the stars have aligned if a guest actually manages to come visit internationally. I will be at Anime NYC this year, and they are hosting Chiwa Saito, who is a voice actress. She did Homura and Madoka, and she did like Tamamo and Fate Extra. But I have a little Monogatari Hitagi Sinjo Gahara Shikishi, and I gotta enter the lottery to get. God, cross your little non-existent fingers that I get this this autograph lottery, because I will do anything for it. But that's my current goal for autographs. Yes, I hope Homu and I both do. Homu in chat is also trying. Yeah. The other thing, I think I've mentioned this on stream maybe once, but I don't really talk about it. Fooly Cooly was like my first non-Naruto anime, and we talked about the dub being very good, right? So the character designer did these really nice line art only black and white character illustrations, and I got them printed. And I have a goal to get all the main 4 autographs and frame them and put them up on the wall. I got Haruko and I got Ninamori, but I still need to get Mamimi and Naota. Naota's going to be tough because that voice actress is getting a lot older. But weirdly enough, I guess she was Rita Repulsa in Power Rangers, so she goes to a lot of like Power Rangers conventions. I might have to go to one of those because she really doesn't do anime cons anymore.
It's been fascinating to see Power Rangers conventions really just popping off in the past several years. It feels like that. I'm sure they've been around for a while, but I feel like they're becoming not just bigger, but more frequent. Maybe that's just because I wasn't really in the fandom, but the fact that I'm seeing them more, I feel like indicates
that would be a good indication.
Conventions in general have been growing, and it's been so cool that I know in 2020, when everything locked down, that a lot of convention runners were really scared. They were really worried.
Oh yeah, I remember
folks
that.
Were going to be falling out of the fandom, falling out of the habit of going to cons, that coming out of 2021 into 2022, a lot of places were really bracing for a dip in attendance that there's never been something like this in our lifetimes. There's no precedent of what it's going to do to business, especially for an annual event like this. And are people keeping up with it? Are people still interested? And a lot of places were sort of bracing for, okay, is this going to be a 10, 15% dip? And it was the opposite. People were inside for 2 years and they were watching anime, and the folks that were not into anime were also stuck inside for 2 years, and a good chunk of them started watching anime. And the folks that had been going to conventions were not getting out of the habit. They were bemoaning the fact that they couldn't go to conventions, and then they were telling their friends that were just getting into anime about these conventions that they were really sad that they couldn't go to. So things start ramping up again, and conventions don't see a decline. They see a spike. Some of them see a spike that they aren't prepared for.
Agreed. Absolutely.
Otakon, if memory serves, saw a 40% spike in 1 year.
Do you remember... You said that you've gone to several cons over the years. Do you remember when everyone thought Otakon was going to die? Because I sure do. I don't know what happened there. It's still kicking,
Otakon has never exactly been known for its speedy registration line.
Oh, no.
So,
Were you there the year that someone pulled the fire alarm? They had to close all the lines.
yep.
Oh
And-
boy, shared trauma.
And that, coming back, not only is it usually going to be a big hassle, but then they have this massive influx of people that they are just not prepared for.
And they already moved to a larger space.
Yeah.
I liked it better in Baltimore, but that's okay.
Baltimore, they waited for the Baltimore Convention Center to renovate, and they never did, and they outgrew it, and they stuck around for like 2-3 extra years hoping they would renovate, and they didn't.
Yep. I guess we'll go to
They
DC
did
then.
not want to move, but but while not every con saw a 40% spike, most cons that obviously there's going to be a couple exceptions, but most saw like a 10-20% spike. That not only was it growth, but it was substantial growth, and some got caught on an absolute back foot where they
were
just were
completely
not
caught off
prepared,
guard,
or that their venue was not
suitable to that crowd,
to the spike that they saw, and it was really cool. And obviously, a little bit rough in the moment, but that's a good
thing,
kind of problem,
essentially.
Yes.
But then again, you said like people weren't gonna, the organizers weren't sure like what was gonna happen post COVID, and primarily it's been positive growth. But I think we talked about during the pre-interview, I'm vaccinated. Every time I go to AX, I get COVID. All my friends who go get COVID. It's like unavoidable. I don't know.
I've only gotten it once from an event, and I still wear masks anytime I go, and I encourage people to go, and I accept the fact that 95% of people won't.
Well, Ghost Machines know I do work at cons sometimes, right? Yeah. And I told you, like, I wear the mask. I sanitize the hands in between handling people's credit cards. There's only so much you can do, dude.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And I remember the first cons back that, if a single case of COVID was spread there, even if they had, full-on masking vaccination policies, that it was like a big deal. And I felt bad for them. I was like, what are you going to do? Of course, statistically speaking, it's going to happen. And
it's going to
happen.
Intentional.
And
It
you can
only
still happens now,
best.
And even prior that it was Concrud, and it is just now.
Now it's
Concrud
much
Plus.
worse. Concrud Plus. But yeah, no, it's true. I am missing AX this year. I'm very sad about it, but at the same time, hopefully I won't get COVID this year. So
hopefully, yes.
What can you do?
And that it's certainly something that I and basically everyone else sort of accepts at this point of you do what precautions you can, but you
can only do what you can.
You only do so much, and that certainly, hopefully, vaccinations do make a big difference, and that through the different mutations, that it is not as necessarily bad in terms of symptoms as it once was. Obviously, it can still be very bad. That people still absolutely die from COVID, but that just as with any virus that
you said,
as it
like,
mutates, it generally
you were able to take Paxlovid when you got, like, there are things that at least we're a little more prepared now that it's been around for a while, but it certainly is still there.
Yep.
It's rough.
It will continue to be, and that I expect to see a lot of people dropping like flies second week of July.
Oh God, Concrud Plus for the Nintendo 3DS. Yeah, I don't know. I hope for the best for conventions. Be mindful of touching your face. Be mindful of what your hands touch. Make sure no one sneezes in your face.
And
that's all you can do.
Be kind to the con staffers.
Please. Whether it's the organizers or like the people who are hired to work the event, who, if you ask, hey, where's this? And they honestly tell you, I don't know, I'm a contract employee. Do your best, because they've had a real long weekend.
And that there's so many things that can happen, whether it be at the convention level or at the booth level, that just cannot be accounted for, even with the best laid plans. I've heard and seen just, it is not everything that can go wrong will go wrong, but something somewhere in a operation that complex will go
Yes.
wrong. Something
Of course, you have
will
to
go
you have to
wrong.
assume. Yes.
And that,
I don't.
yeah, be patient.
Con working is difficult too. It's like you I believe you said you've done AX before.
Yeah.
Or worked or attended or whatever. But I know one year that I had worked, the most recent AX that I had worked, we're the first day, we're in the dealer's room. I forget the exact time, but let's say 8 a.m. the dealer's room is supposed to open. We're still getting our stuff up. We know the huge fire hazard crowd is out there
I know
waiting,
what you're about to
right?
say.
Oh, do you? 7:30 comes around.
The
We
dealer's
get an
hall
announcement.
is now
We'll open
10
10 minutes
minutes.
early at 7:50. 7:45 rolls around. We're scrambling. We're like, what the hell? The dealer's hall is now open. We're like, but who do you get mad at? Is it us for not getting ready soon enough? Probably not. We were given a time to work with.
That's
but also,
one that-
the organizers are doing it for a reason. It's not like, let's just let them in a bit early. Surely,
it's all right.
you
We
know,
are
they're
at
trying to
actual
abate
capacity
something.
outside.
Yeah.
We will have a fire marshal situation outside if we don't let people into another room.
What do you do? AX is a nightmare. I love AX. They get the best guests. I would never suggest anyone attend AX as an attendee.
For those who aren't familiar with the North American convention
Con scene. Yeah.
ecosystem environment, Anime Expo is the largest convention at some 110, 120,000.
Not
The
even
next
close.
biggest is 70,000.
Something like
At
that,
least in
yeah.
terms of anime
It's
conventions. This
nearly
is
double.
obviously, yeah, that it's nearly double. It is at a scale that is just so far beyond anything else that it is incomparable to others.
It's
And
difficult
obviously
because
this isn't counting like San Diego Comic-Con and New
Oh,
York
of course.
Comic-Con. And
We're
such, but-
talking just
but
anime
for anime
cons,
cons, it's AX, and then you have 5, 10 very, very large cons, and then there's like a couple tiers down, but AX stands alone.
I was going to say, but I actually realized I don't know. Are there any bigger places they can move to? Because AX outgrew the LA Convention Center long ago. The biggest benefit is that the stadium is like right there, so that concerts also happen there. It's in the middle of LA. There are good things about it, but it outgrew it forever ago. Is there anywhere bigger in California that it could feasibly even move to? Or is this the best we can get?
I am checking right now because I know that there is actually a Wikipedia
It's also a
page
question for Chad if you happen to know.
a Wikipedia page for convention centers in the U.S. Here we are. So, by exhibition space, the LA Convention Center is it's not in the top 10 in terms of
Really?
exhibition space.
Okay. I don't know. AX is
It is the
It's a
19th
challenge.
largest by exhibition space.
Okay.
Now that doesn't count total space, so all
just
the other areas.
exhibition space, sure.
And that for exhibition space, I don't know if that necessarily counts the types of rooms that would have panels.
I
don't
imagine
know
that doesn't. It just doesn't count like
Yeah,
staff rooms that are not meant for attendees.
but I also don't know if it counts things like Petrie Hall, which is like technically a parking lot.
Yeah,
not meant
but
to be exhibition space, and now it is. So I don't know if that counts. Per Wikipedia, the largest convention center in the U.S. is McCormick Place in Chicago.
Really?
According
It's
to
funny you
this-
mentioned Chicago. Actually, now I'm doing my own quick segue. I've never been to Chicago. I have heard for years that Anime Central is a very good convention.
It's solid. I've been,
it's solid.
and the experiences I've had there were very positive.
So we decided that we would hold TakaCon 2025, and we picked ASEN because it has a good track record from everyone who's attended. It's in the middle of North America, so it's not too bad for everyone to travel to.
It has its name for a reason.
And I'll go to ASEN. The Goshujins are all going. We'll have little parties. We'll find some nice restaurants. We'll make a weekend of it. It'll be fun. So it'll be like a big meet and greet opportunity, I guess, at at Ace Unofficial. I'm trying to become a con guest for it. That would be very cool if I could do like sanctioned autographs and maybe a concert or something like that. But it is for now unofficial. So that's actually something we were planning a mini event. We're not getting COVID at TakaCon. Stop saying that.
Also, just the hyper.
The hyper meat, yeah.
Just,
Yay.
Perfect. It just. So looking at this list, so you asked the question: is there another place that AX could go? And that
yes.
The answer of is there other places in the U.S. that it could go? Yes. Is there another place in California it can go? According to this, the Anaheim Convention Center is larger.
And someone in chat said the one in Anaheim is probably the biggest one in Cali, and AX sometimes does it there. Have they?
I think so, but there's also the question of what is the surrounding area like? That for a con like AX, you also have to consider hotels. How many hotels are in the area?
How feasible is the hotel block? Is it walkable? Is there food around?
Is there food? What is the general layout of the venue?
How is the safety?
Yeah,
generally.
Are they going to
anything
have
compared to LA? But
enough separate rooms? Is this space portioned out such that we can have that? Even if they have technically more square footage of exhibition space, is the largest hall as big as the one in the LA Convention Center? How many other halls do they have that can hold things like Artist Alley, like big panels?
Is the con center split up in such a way that it would be a good match for the event that we are trying to run?
Yeah, there's so many variables that go on, and then the concept of moving it to a non-California location introduces
that's its own can
a
of
lot
worms.
of problems.
There's no
Part of the reason that AX was able to grow the way it was.
What's a California business anyway?
That California cons are at an advantage to get Japanese guests in.
We talked about that, yeah.
And for that reason, AX was in a position where it was able to grow to be the behemoth that it was. It didn't just pop up that way because the literal distance and time difference between California and Japan is not as bad. That it's always going to be more difficult for a Japanese guest to get from Japan to New York. It's certainly not impossible, but they definitely prefer going to California, and it makes a non-zero difference.
Is it SakuraCon that's in Washington? I haven't gone. All my friends say it's really fun.
So, yeah.
That also, SakuraCon notoriously gets really good Japanese guests.
The con, and I told you this earlier, the con that gets the best and most Japanese guests and has for years, despite being much smaller, and it's just now in the past several years really grown to be big, but a con that, by all rights, got guests that a con of that size normally would never get is Kauai Con in Hawaii, because even closer than California, but also it has the innate advantage of you get to say and pitch to the guests, come take a vacation in Hawaii. And no offense to anywhere else in the country, but you're going to have a hard time matching that offer.
Yeah, for sure.
Of only have, a minimal amount of time difference and travel time and jet lag, and you get to be in Hawaii.
Cronus just mentioned it. I've heard really good things about Annie Revo in Vancouver, which is also very West Coast.
Yep. There's a reason that the biggest stuff happens on the West Coast. It's geography literally matters here.
Yep. Exactly.
And obviously, it is entirely possible for conventions to grow and succeed in other parts of the country, but that's the reason why you see such a difference in the number of cons and the number of big cons in the anime space specifically on the West Coast versus the East Coast.
Yep. So, partially it can't be helped, but I would like, I don't know, it's difficult. I would like to see AX move to a place that is more feasible to just exist in, right? Getting through any crowds is like impossible there.
I don't know if there is anything that.
I don't know.
It's a very legitimate question.
Saying that is so simple. Saying that is so easy.
Yeah.
But there are so many factors, like you said, that go into it that it's like But you can't just say that. You have to cover every avenue if you're planning on moving such a large-scale event to another place.
And I'm going to put a base level of confidence in the showrunners that they have probably considered this multiple times over, and that I assume that there is a number of reasons why they have not moved.
I would imagine. Look, businesses work in such a way that if something, generally, not always, a lot of the time, they work in a very simple way. If it makes sense to do it, they'll do it. You know what I mean? So I can't imagine with AX known as like the fire hazard con, with the main AX thing shared around always the crowd on the first day waiting to get into the dealer's room.
Which
They
they've gotten
must
better at.
know. Surely they know. You know, surely this is something they've considered. So I can't be like, have they considered doing this? For sure, there's a reason they're still there.
Well, why not go to McCormick Place? It's obviously the biggest. Shouldn't they just go to a bigger place? Why not go to
Who knows
Las
how much
Vegas?
the event place is charging? You know, there's so many different, like, you can't just say that. You know, and unless you're on, presumably pretty high up on the con staff, like, you're just not going to know. That's not stuff that they share publicly. But
or
we
that
can dream that attending AX is something people can enjoy again, and not something we have to suffer through.
It's
I want to
such an
believe.
interesting situation. And obviously, the other thing that businesses do is that they're more likely to change things when they are outright broken. And is it a huge crowd? Is it cramped? Yes, but
It sure hasn't stopped ticket sales. They capped them, didn't they, last year? They're succeeding. They're growing.
It's succeeding. That it is doing well, and that are there frustrations on, the attendee level and probably the exhibitor level as well? Probably,
but how is that? Does that take priority over the amount of money that they are making?
And to what degree could that frustration actually be mitigated? Because once you are at a crowd of that size, if it's 100,000 people in Los Angeles versus 100,000 people in Chicago, where you have a bit more space, but possibly a less convenient layout,
location,
is it going to actually make it better?
Is it going to make it
actually
worse?
Going to reduce frustration?
I don't know. And as Wolfborg said, some cases they're locked into a contract too. Yes, you can use our event space, but you have to hold it here for the next 5 years. We don't know. You know? Could be anything.
Do they see an attendance drop if they move? Because statistically speaking, most cons are going to pull primarily from their immediate areas. And that, simply speaking, the number of people that live in and around Los Angeles is greater than the number of people that live in and around Chicago, which is greater than the number of people that live in and around New Orleans, which has the 5th largest convention center in the U.S. by exhibition space. So if you were to move to a bigger space, do you actually end up having an attendance dip? Because I don't know what their stats are. What percentage of
is that a risk
attendees
you're willing to
are
take
within-
as a business?
Yeah,
you willing to test it out? I don't know. Will that sour your relationship with the LA Convention Center? Will that make it more difficult to get back to where you were?
And is
I don't know.
worth the risk of changing, where you can keep going and expect, okay, we will have these headaches, we will have these crowds, but year over year we're hopefully probably getting better. And I feel like to a degree that the badge pickup system has gotten better. I feel like I don't see those, that the day one crowd is inevitable, but I feel like the day one lines you don't see as much, at least in terms of like badge pickup, that you don't see it wrapping around.
That's hard to say because I have worked
This is
AF every time I've attended. I am not the one. I'll meet up with my boss and he hands me the badge that he already got. You know what I mean? Or I pick it up like the day before when everyone is setting up, because that's when they start giving them out. I'm not the one.
I just know
standing
that
outside
they
in
ship badges now, whereas they didn't always. So
100 plus degree weather with 50% humidity. I can't say. I check Twitter and I find out. You know.
Yep.
It's tough. So
Conventions are cool. You should go to conventions. They're very
please
fun.
go to conventions. They're a great excuse to see friends that you don't see very often. It's a wonderful opportunity to celebrate a hobby that rarely gets, I would say, real life attention. You know, don't always just be locked into the internet. Just make some plans.
So
do some special things.
Friends and memories made at conventions. That there are
beautiful thing.
You talk about Steins Gate timelines, time loops, and whatnot. Of just there are multiple things in my life where without conventions, significant butterfly effect.
My life would be very different if I never attended conventions the way that I did.
I don't know if Vtuber Talk exists without conventions.
There you go. Shouldn't you be social? Yeah, I'm your mom right now.
Just there's so many things, and just that, like I said, big business nerd, that I find this type of stuff really fascinating. And
no, so do I.
It's cool to see how conventions have grown, and that you see some do things really well, some do things not well, some learn really fast after doing things not really well, some don't. Some make changes and step backwards. Others will do the same thing over and over again, and accept the imperfections as good as it's gonna get.
It's not a bug, it's a feature.
Yep.
Exactly.
Do you remember what the first convention you ever attended was?
It was Otakon 2008? 2009. My first convention was going to be Katsucon before that, and I remember I was close to the DC area, I think. Or was that in Maryland at the time? I forget. Regardless, it was me and two friends, and my parents drove us down. I was in a closet cosplay. And I did not know you had to buy the badges in advance, and they sold out at the door. So we went to the aquarium instead, and then we went home.
No! That's the worst. And unfortunately, that has been happening with increasing frequency with conventions growing, is that you're seeing more and more selling out, and that sometimes they sell out.
Capped this year, right? I think.
Yes.
Ticket sales capped. They didn't sell any at the door.
Yeah, but that also some will sell out at the door, and I've seen folks in a really unfortunate position where if they thought that they'd be able to walk
it's
up,
too late to cancel it. Unfortunate.
Oh, no, if you booked a hotel and are doing walk up, that's your own fault, because
I am hoping you would cover all of your bases. Then
I see that's much more a risk of if you're a local. I feel
that's fair.
Yeah, but
cons are so cool. Go to more cons. Yes. Attend a con if you haven't before. I promise, even if you go alone, it's not scary. Yeah, volunteer for a con. Absolutely, they need the help for sure.
That you will get, depending on.
I am not sponsored. We are not sponsored.
Not sponsored.
We just love the scene.
That the benefits you get for volunteering will vary con, so look things up. But they need people, whether if you have any AV experience, you're a unicorn. They will love you, and they will thank you, and you'll get to do some cool stuff.
They'll give you a nice pat on the head and say, please come back. Please come back.
If you know absolutely nothing but are capable of being just kind, patient, and professional, and all you do is sit and glance and thumbs up, okay, yes, you got a badge, you can go into this panel room. They still need people for that, and it makes a difference, because just having a couple people that are able to do that means that the AV people don't need to do that, so they are able to do AV and help the con run.
Cons are truly a labor of love. It is so rare for them to, in my experience, there's exceptions to every rule. It's very rare that I ever feel profit is like the first point. You know what I mean?
I'm pulling this stat out of nowhere, but I would estimate some 75% of anime cons. So this is specifically anime cons, not comic cons.
We're not talking gaming, we're not talking comics, right?
I would estimate 75% of anime cons in North America are nonprofit organizations. And nonprofit does not mean not
That doesn't mean we don't pay
profitable.
this.
That doesn't
That just
mean
means
unpaid. But most of these will have 1 to 3 full-time employees, maybe some paid contractors, and then the vast majority and
volunteers.
Volunteers. And there are a number of conventions where it is 100% volunteers, and even the executive directors who spend literally hundreds, if not thousands of hours of their lives planning the entirety of the year, that as soon as the con's over, they're first spending another month dealing with all of the wrap-up of the con of, payments, contracts, postmortems, what have you, and then immediately going into planning for the next year,
What are we gonna
maybe
do for
taking
next
a month
year?
or two off, and they don't see $1 for it.
Yep.
Some
It's
do,
all
but
passion,
there's
primarily.
so
Usually.
many. And there are some that are run by for-profit organizations, and usually, hopefully, those end up being some of the ones that are higher
grow,
quality. That
get traction, yeah.
Anime
Or
NYC
better,
is
just higher
run by
quality.
a for-profit organization. They have a full staff, and that they do not have volunteers. That even the entry-level stuff, the folks who watch the doors and check the badges get paid. That you can get paid cash. Not all will, but you can find the ones that do.
Yeah. But I don't know, it's so nice because, I guess we've kind of, either gone over it or kind of, approached this kind of discussion, but, I became a VTuber because I'm passionate about anime. You know what I mean? And I wanted a community that was as passionate or was open-minded enough to, try it out. And I think it is so hard to, find any real-life connections when you are as in deep to this hobby, or you have hobbies like this. Maybe you're lucky enough to have a card shop around you where they play the same cards or something like that.
Yeah.
But generally, how are you gonna look up Pokemon Go meetups on Facebook? What are you gonna do?
Yeah.
At conventions, you are able to
inherently know
participate in the community.
everyone around you has something in common with you. That if you're when you're waiting for, whether it's 30 minutes or 2 hours in the reg line to pick up your badge, you know that the person in front and behind you, even if you don't have the same favorite series, that they watch anime. They do something, or they're probably statistically speaking into games, and you can just strike up a conversation. And 95%
It's a social
of the
event.
time,
They're usually happy to talk, unless they're visibly sitting against the wall, exhausted. In which case,
and
read the room.
95% of the
generally,
time, they're going to give you information because they're going to wear it on their sleeve, literally and figuratively. That you can glance in. People that go to cons are usually going to be either wearing an anime shirt, in cosplay. If they just have a bag, there's probably going to be buttons and keychains, phone charms that you can just spot and be like, "Oh, you like that series? I love that series. Have you seen,
what's your favorite character?"
And even more so if you're waiting for a specific panel, because then you know very specifically what someone
an
has in
actual
common
shared
with you.
interest.
Just right there, and that I
And
know.
cons are beautiful. I think they're wonderful.
And sometimes you will make a new friend that you'll hang out for the rest of the con and become lifelong buddies. Some you will never see again. But hey, you had a great conversation for that 30 minutes while you were waiting for the panel.
Yep, exactly. So
there's so many cool things, and whether it's being able to meet a creator whose work has really impacted you, or just go to a late night comedy panel and laugh so hard that you can't breathe. That there's so much cool stuff.
Absolutely. If it's been a long time since you've been to a con, or you never have, and you're like, oh, but I'd be attending alone. Would it be worth the money?
I would not suggest, if you've never been to a con before, to fly and book a hotel alone to a con.
Right. Yes. But your online friends might be going. If there's someone you trust, obviously. Be safe. I don't know. There's plenty of stuff to do.
Yeah, and honestly, that's one of the other things. If you volunteer, depending on what you do, some will have crash space of you will probably have to volunteer a significant portion of the con, but it's not going to end up being every single hour. And then some places will say, if you volunteer for a total of 20 hours over these 3 or 4 days, if you're helping out on day 0, that your hotel room will be paid for, and that you will be rooming with other on volunteers. So then you have a place, you're probably not paying for it, and you have roommates, and hopefully the roommates are good, maybe not.
Cool.
But
Yeah.
that's just a way of, if you don't know anyone, but yeah, ideally going with friends to a convention, making a weekend of it, it's the best.
No, I agree.
Now,
Maybe hang out in the Discord and join us at TakaCon. Exactly.
Yeah. Making a bit of a pivot. One thing I know, very outside of all the different stuff that we discussed, you mentioned to me that you're into pole fitness.
Oh, God.
I couldn't let us finish the show without getting there.
I did bring that up.
I was like, I had it on my notes. I was like, well, hold on. And that, I can't remember if it's something that you are still actively doing or if it was something that you did for a couple of years in the past. But just, you were talking about, obviously, it's very good exercise, that it works so many different muscles. And what was your experience with that? Like, did you go out of your way to choreograph to any particular songs or anything?
No, they really were exercise classes. I mean, they had like extracurricular, like, oh, if you want to, make dances or whatever, you can. But I haven't done it in a few years, but I really enjoyed it and I want to go back to it. I did it for a few years. It really was just like a pole dancing fitness class. It's very, very hard to do it properly. It takes a lot of strength, you have to be like very conscious about how you move your muscles or your body. Like, you have to, if you want to lift your body weight up safely, you have to stack your joints in such a way. Like, you can pull yourself up on a pole, but if you're not doing it in a certain way, you'll really hurt yourself, I used to it would like rub the skin off on my legs or my arms. I would usually be covered in bruises on like my arms and my thighs and especially my shins, because you're like pressing your legs so hard against, it really was like a blood, sweat, and tears kind of thing. I loved it. It got me so strong so fast too. And it felt really nice to do it in a class with like all these other girls who, were there for the same reason. Quite nice. Would recommend it to anyone who is interested, I suppose. It's very challenging. But I'd like to do it again.
When was the last time that you did a class?
God, it's been so long. Maybe 2017, 2018?
Oh, yeah.
Something like
that. It has
that?
been a bit, but...
And I've moved since then, so I think there's a place closer here. It'd be more reasonable to do so. But it is hard because it's something you have to do at a studio. You can like get one installed in your house, but it's quite
there's
an
many videos
thing.
online of
those falling down
if
yeah, exactly,
properly.
Yeah, it really is a fixture in your home that you have to like be prepared to put in and have there. So generally you will need to like pay for a membership and have to attend so many classes a month, but I think it's wonderful.
Yeah,
I loved it a lot. That's my
little PSA. Pole fitness is neat.
Yeah, consider it. Consider it. Just a little Takako fun fact, I suppose, that I did fitness pole dancing for quite a while.
Is there anything that, if you could choreograph a routine to a song, or are there any songs, whether it be something from anime or otherwise, that you would want to do?
I don't have a song picked out, but I did just recently tell a friend, man, if I could get one installed, I would love to do like a 3D tracking pole dancing stream. I think that'd be so fun.
It's been done.
It doesn't
it's
have to be
that
super
you can
sexual.
certainly do.
It's just like a dancing thing, Quite fun.
There's plenty of virtual fitness classes happening already that it is absolutely possible for a virtual pole fitness class. And like that, what's the coolest part of that is it could just be in VR chat or something. That's something that I could see. That's the metaverse that I actually see happening in the future. I think VR chat is actually just the metaverse as we have it.
Yeah.
The layman isn't aware of it yet.
Oh, I agree. I was able to get the tech for 3D tracking. I'm still trying to get it to work, but we'll get to the bottom of it. The Goshu jeans are really VR chat savvy, so having them help me set stuff up I've been very grateful.
We need the Takako exercise VHS tapes. I never even thought of that. Like, you know, we have the voice packs, but the workout routine, that's technically a viable.
That's not a bad idea. I'll tell you what.
Yeah. I thought of that. Goodness, we've been at this for almost 4 hours now. I realize.
How long is your usual? I browsed through a few, but I didn't notice the
3 hours. 4 hours usually ends up being what I would call my average. That I probably talk more than I used to. That the earlier one skewed toward 2.5-ish. But you know, anytime that we're able to talk this much and potentially even longer, it you know, certainly speaks to things going well. But I know it is getting late, and also I'm not sure if you're even going to have the energy to watch Pokemon Live at this point. But if you end up watching it, let me know. That legitimately, I will make time to pop into the Discord for that. And well, I probably won't be able to join for all of Code Geass. That I might tune in for like the first episode, just so I can be there for that one.
Please do.
But I have just.
Thank you for having me. It's been a blast.
Pleasure's all mine. That like you mentioned earlier, that we realize we have a lot in common. So we may end up talking more. Who knows? But I do have a last few questions that I ask all my guests, and the first is: do you have any goals for the rest of the year? That we are now a bit over halfway through 2024. As weird as that is. So if there's anything that you're hoping to accomplish, whether it's a particular project, a piece of merch you want to get out, a stream that you want to do, is there anything you're hoping to be able to check off before the end of 2024?
I'm hesitant to say any particular streams that I want to do before the end of the year, like the Sword Art stream, because if I don't, if I'm not able to do them in time, the Gosha Jeans will never let me hear the end of it. But I have been working with a Japanese producer on an original song, on my first original song. Hopefully that will be done before the end of the year. I've actually achieved a lot of my year goals already. I put out the Dakimakura. I got my first Fumo made. Those are going to be shipped to me rather soon, so they'll get distributed soon.
I am all for the VTuber to Fumo pipeline.
Yeah. It's so cute. Have you seen it? I'm so proud of it.
I don't know if a Fumo exists that isn't cute. They're just. It's been very exciting to see VTubers be able to actually get access to merch and manufacturing.
No, I agree. I always wanted to be like a con artist, but I was always attending, so I didn't want to waste the whole con behind the booth. And VTubing has been really great, you know, because I can make my own merch. I can draw what I want. I can feature it. I can sing if I want to. It's such a versatile medium. I guess it's quite nice. Scamamura, you stop. Oh yeah, my first proper produced song cover has been came out this year. Sorry, my brain's all over the place. But I don't know. There's one sponsorship I am trying to get a hold of to work on, and then I've got the original song. There's plenty of stuff to look forward to. I'm quite excited.
And then TakaCon in 2025.
This is the year of the maid, but if it goes well, next year will be the year of the maid too.
Yay! Restful Taka. Restful
Taka.
Very comfy.
She was tucked in. Quite a cute photo. I was very happy with how she came out.
And the last...
Yeah.
The last question I ask all my guests is, what does being a VTuber mean to you? And that you sort of started to hit on it just now, and it's not what is the definition of a VTuber, but different people get different things from VTubing. And some folks I've had say, it lets me get in touch with my inner child, or it lets me be someone I can't be in real life. Others use it more as a tool, as an entertainer, and that they don't necessarily have a deep emotional resonance with their model, but they're like, oh, I totally love this model. It's really fun for me, and that I think I'm able to create content and entertain better with this than I could as a face cam streamer. And those are two pretty different sides of a spectrum, and that there's things in between and even beyond. There's no one specific way that is correct to be a VTuber. So for you, Takako Takamura, what does being a VTuber mean to you?
Being a VTuber is, I think, VTubing in general, I think is a really beautiful thing. Ghost Jeans know this very well. Takako is a character I designed as my ideal waifu many moons ago, and now I get to voice act her. I get to, I get to spread her as an anime heroine, as the one that I want a full collection of merchandise of. Now other people can be fans of her too. It's also been a really good outlet for all the different, I used to do voice acting online. I used to do art. I used to post song covers. Now I can do all of that with a community full of people who are a lot like me, people who can connect with each other. It's quite nice. I think it's a really great thing.
I always ask that question at the end of the show because it helps put a bow on things, and that even if it's just, from these past couple hours, that the answers always make sense, and that for you, it's very clear that you're really, really enjoying everything that you've been doing, and that I'm very excited to see what the rest of the year and beyond holds for you. So thank you so much for taking time to be on the show. And the actual last question is, who would you like us to raid?
Oh, let's see.
While she looks for a raid target, I would like to thank Turtle Sheen, Ventucket 1997, Spooky Monstera, A Busy Bee Buzz, Kuromaru Onisan, Snoozu, and Karmacat VT. Thank you so much for the follows. Really do appreciate it. And if for some crazy reason you aren't already following Takako, I'm going to give her another shout out right here.
Thank you, Mr. Vtuber Talk. Yeah, thank you so much for having me, for inviting me. I was very, very happy that you reached out. I think we should raid my friend. She popped by in chat earlier, Trigger Sweets. She's also a big Sonic Adventure 2 fan. Would highly recommend picking her up for an interview. She's a very interesting young lady. But she is playing Sonic Heroes right now.
Now that's a lovableness of a show, or of a game.
So true.
For all the
I don't know about
you have in Sonic Adventure 2, so I remember you were talking with someone else who's been on the show, Arthur Abbott, the other day, and if memory serves, Sonic Heroes came up, and there was the debate over the theme song, and that basically, I don't think there is any Crush 40 song that I don't like, but
good answer.
What goes up must come down, yet my feet don't touch the ground.
Bars.
It's so
bars.
Good.
It's so good.
It's so fun, and just whether it is all of the edgy stuff that is Shadow the Hedgehog, or the absolute banger that is Live and Learn, that am I going to call Sonic Heroes the best thing that Crush 40's ever done? No, but it's still a great song, and
can't discount it.
It is exactly, like I said earlier, it is what it wants to be. That game is what it wants to be. Sonic has never been high art. Absolutely not.
I can't say I'm the biggest Sonic Heroes fan as an adult, but I certainly was as a child, and I owe it to Lolico to finish streaming it someday. Just out of sentiment.
Boy, well, again, thank you so much for being here, and thank you to everyone in chat. Whether you were here from the start or got raided in, I really, really appreciate it. I do these shows about once a week. I actually have 3 this weekend, which is a rarity after a bit of time off that things just sort of scheduled and stacked up as they were. So keep an eye out for things on Twitter if you want to keep up with my future shows. And like I said,
can we have a link to your Twitter? Or links are blocked,
links are
I suppose.
down. Well,
do you have a link to your Twitter below?
In the channel description, and it'll be in the video description for YouTube when I eventually get to catching up on that backlog. I've actually been thinking about that. That's the problem. I need to get to that.
Come on! Get shit together! Let's go!
I need to. But, yes, you can follow me. It's just Twitch here and Twitter, Vtuber Talk, both places for other shows. And even if not, please be sure to follow Takako. So, again, thank you all so much. Be sure to let Trigger Sweets know that Takako sent you all. Have a great rest of your day, and I will see you all next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye.